Chapter 576. Everyone was shocked. When Lu Chen saw the sudden change in Tian Mo's demeanor and his cautious look, he instantly understood that he might have guessed it right. There was a chance that Tian Mo was not a species in this universe. It seems that there must be some kind of catastrophe in this universe. No one knows how many demons have come and whether there are more powerful demons behind. Lu Chen showed a calm expression at this time, and then said, "You don't need to know who I am, you just need to know that I am the nemesis of all your demons." The demon sneered and said, "It's ridiculous, there is no one in this universe who dares to say that he is our demon's nemesis." Lu Chen continued, "I will give you a chance. As long as you tell me what purpose you demons have in coming to this universe, I might be able to let you go." Hearing this, the demon sneered, "It's ridiculous. In front of me, all the humans in this universe are just ants, and an ant actually dares to threaten me." Although he felt that the man in front of him was very unusual and knew a lot of secrets, he did not think that this man was very dangerous. Plus, with his nature as a demon, how could he be afraid of a human being? At this time, the demon threatened in turn, "I will give you one last chance. Tell me immediately where you know these things. Otherwise, I will kill everyone in this city right now, including you." Lu Chen said with a smile, "If you can really do it, you can try it now." Seeing that Lu Chen was smiling and not afraid of him at all, Tian Mo hesitated in his heart. He felt that this person really seemed to have some means to deal with him. Moreover, when he came in just now, he felt something on this man that suppressed the demonic energy. The demonic energy was dissipated as soon as it got close to the man's body. At this time, both parties fell into silence, and the room became extremely quiet. The breeze blew and rustled the curtains in the imperial study. After an unknown amount of time, the demon said, "I know that you still have many wives and concubines in this world. You don't need to think about yourself. Why don't you think about them? As far as I know, you humans value feelings the most." When Tian Mo was on his way to Daqian capital, the leader of Taiyin had already told Tian Mo about Lu Chen's personal information. At first, Tian Mo didn't take it seriously. He didn't expect that he would now move out Lu Chen's wives and concubines to threaten Lu Chen. Lu Chen still had a smile on his face, "I can protect my wife and concubines, so I won't bother you to worry about them. I will give you one last chance. If you don't tell me the purpose of coming to this universe, I will directly destroy your demon body." Seeing Lu Chen's tough attitude, Tian Mo knew that there was a high probability that he wouldn't be able to ask anything. They had already said it for this reason, and there was no need for them to continue to be polite. The next moment, the devilish energy from the demon was released instantly. For a moment, the devilish energy was overwhelming, and the whole room was filled with devilish energy. Lu Qingqiu and Mu Yongzi felt particularly uncomfortable at this time. After being exposed to the demonic energy, their spiritual power was greatly suppressed. This is why the demon is said to be the natural enemy of cultivators. However, when the demonic energy from the demon was about to approach Lu Chen, it was suddenly blocked by some mysterious force, and Lu Chen acted like a normal person. The demon said, "You do have some abilities, which are different from any cultivator I have ever seen. However, anyone who dares to provoke me will only die in the end." While speaking, the demon suddenly moved and rushed directly towards Lu Chen. Seeing that the demon was about to appear next to Lu Chen, the Taiyin leader grinned almost to the back of his head. But at this moment, Lu Chen suddenly took out a flag-like object from somewhere. When this object appeared, the demonic energy in the entire room was instantly expelled, and the demons were also emitted by the golden light emitted by the exorcism flag. It flew out. Seeing this scene, everyone was stunned. Even the demon himself was stunned for a moment. He never thought that there was a treasure in this world that could suppress him in this way. In an instant, it was easy to attack and defend. This time, it was not Mu Yongzi and Lu Qingqiu who were suppressed by the demonic energy, but instead the demons and the evil cultivators from the Taiyan sect were suppressed by the golden light of the exorcism flag. The demon felt that the golden light of the exorcism flag was not only suppressing his demonic energy, but also gave him the feeling of drying out his demonic soul. Something is wrong, something is very wrong with this thing. How can such a thing that suppresses demonic energy appear in this low-level world? You must know how much the immortal kings and emperors of this universe paid when they attacked this universe from the outer realm. At that time, they did not have this kind of thing. A treasure that suppresses evil energy. The world he is in now is just a low-level world. How could such a terrifying treasure come out of this low-level world? If this treasure had appeared in the last era, I am afraid that their demons would have been wiped out long ago. Not only would they be wiped out quickly, but the immortal kings and immortal emperors of this universe might even counterattack the outer realm. The demon, who had never been afraid before, actually felt an inexplicable fear at this moment, a kind of throbbing coming from the depths of the demon's soul. What is this? How could such a terrifying treasure appear in an inferior world? Seeing that the demon was obviously frightened, Lu Qingqiu and Mu Yongzi glanced at each other, and both of them could see their shock in each other's eyes. In the world of advanced cultivators, they have never heard of a treasure that can suppress demonic energy so hard. Spiritual weapons that suppress demonic energy do exist, but they are not so exaggerated, and they can only suppress demonic energy for a short period of time. The demon was lost for a moment. But those spiritual weapons are not enough to scare a demon. The demon is not afraid of anything by nature. The two women are well informed, but they have never seen such a scene before. After Mu Yongzi and Lu Qingqiu looked at each other, their eyes fell on Lu Chen again. They were now very curious about where this guy came from and how he came to possess this treasure. If this thing is known to people in the world of cultivation, I don't know how many big sects and big forces will fight for it. At this time, the two women were retreating in their hearts. Just such a thing was enough to prove that Lu Chen's identity was not simple. If they really did something to Lu Chen, even if they left this world, they would probably suffer from Lu Chen. Chen was pursued by the forces behind him. They don't want to get into such a big trouble. But having said that, if the two of them don't get rid of this guy will want to occupy their bodies. It seems that the best way now is to leave this ledger. The two women then secretly made up their minds. After the demon's matter was resolved, they would hurry up and leave this place, and not have any contact with Lu Chen in the future. As for how to leave this world, they will figure it out when the time comes. Anyway, this guy is something the two of them cannot afford to offend. End of chapter. Chapter 577 The Heaven-Slaying Demon. At this time, the most fearful person in the imperial study room was not the heavenly demon, nor Lu Qingqiu and Mu Yongzi, but the Taiyan cult master. He did not expect that Lu Chen actually possessed such a treasure that could greatly suppress the demonic energy. In this situation, even if they did not die, he would be killed by the demon when they escaped. He was the one who brought Heavenly Demon to this dangerous place. Heavenly Demon might think that he was with Lu Chen. When he thought of this, Taiyan cult master turned pale. No. He must leave this ghost place. When either Lu Chen or Tianmo reacts, he will die without a burial place. The flag in Lu Chen's hand suppressed the demonic energy so powerfully that even the demon would most likely not be his opponent. Thinking of this, the leader of Taiyan suddenly pulled out his sword and killed himself directly. This sudden scene made everyone in the imperial study stunned again. Even Lu Chen was stunned for a moment. He did not expect that the Taiyan leader was so frightened that he committed suicide. Etc. Something seems wrong? Lu Chen didn't think that the leader of Taiyan was a person who would commit suicide. This guy must be. Before Lu Chen could think about the reason why the leader of Taiyan did this, he heard the demon suddenly shouted, "Bring me to this place, you still want to escape?" While speaking, the demon suddenly grabbed the void, and the next moment a red soul shadow appeared in the demon's hand. Seeing the shadow of Taiyin cult master's soul in Tian Mo's hand, Lu Chen instantly realized that this guy had the idea to kill himself to separate his soul from his body, and then escape from this place of right and wrong without anyone noticing. However, how powerful is the demon's perception of souls and demonic energy? How could he not sense that the Taiyin cult master is escaping? Obviously, the Taiyin cult master's plan failed. The leader of Taiyin, who was caught by the demon, panicked for a moment. He quickly begged for mercy and said, "Lord Demon, please have mercy on me. I didn't even know that Lu Chen actually had a treasure that could suppress the demonic energy." The demon didn't listen to the Taiyin leader's sophistry. He opened his mouth without hesitation, then directly stuffed the Taiyin leader's soul shadow into his mouth, bit and pulled it with his teeth, and directly tore the Taiyin leader's soul shadow into pieces. The next moment, the screams of Taiyin cult leader resounded throughout the imperial study room. Ah! The demon ignored the Taiyin leader's screams and quickly swallowed the Taiyin leader's soul into his stomach. Soon, the leader of Taiyin lost his voice completely. Seeing this scene, the other members of Taiyin Shen cult were frightened. Even their leader was eaten clean. Then they. At this moment, someone didn't know who shouted "Run!" and then, those members of the Taiyin God sect were so frightened that they quickly ran away from the imperial study room. But the demon did not intend to let them go. The demonic energy in his body surged again, and quickly overwhelmed the fleeing Taiyin God cult members. Then, the demon opened his mouth wide and made an inhaling motion. Soon, the demonic energy and the people of the Taiyin sect were all sucked into the belly of the demon. When the demon took action, Lu Chen did not take action against the demon. For him, the Taiyin God sect was also the target to be solved. Now that the demon took the initiative to help him solve it, he could just watch from the side. After the demon eliminated all the people from the Taiyin sect, the demon's eyes returned to Lu Chen again. He sneered and said, "You didn't take action just now because you wanted to use my own hands to eliminate those people, right?" Lu Chen said calmly, "Yes, I don't want to see blood everywhere in my study room. Now that the troublemaker has been taken care of, it's our turn." The demon said, "Do you think you can defeat me if you have a treasure that can suppress the devil's energy?" Lu Chen said, "How will you know if you don't try?" After finishing his words, Lu Chen stopped talking nonsense and directly activated the exorcism flag to release the golden light, once again suppressing the devil's energy. At this time, the demon felt very uncomfortable. Even if he wanted to turn into a ball of demon soul and run away directly, it would be impossible, as if he was imprisoned by the exorcism flag. With no other choice, the demon had no choice but to fight this man. Immediately, the demon took the initiative and disappeared instantly. When he reappeared, he was already in front of Lu Chen. Lu Chen did not use the god-killing spear this time. He suddenly raised his hand and swung out a palm. A ray of blue palm energy flew out from Lu Chen's hand, and the demon's body flew away. The next moment, cracks appeared in the demon's soul. The demon couldn't believe it. Just a simple palm could actually seriously injure him. How did he do this? Seeing this scene, Mu Yongzi and Lu Qingkai were shocked again. That was a demon. How could Lu Chen seriously injure the demon with one palm? Even if Lu Chen used that flag-like treasure to suppress the demon's demonic energy, it would still be impossible to completely suppress his strength. How could Lu Chen inflict such serious injuries on the demon with just one palm? At this time, the demon discovered another problem. Lu Chen's palm energy not only seriously injured his demon soul, but the remaining palm energy was actually still eroding his demon soul. If he continued like this, he would definitely die. The demon suppressed the pain in his demon soul and asked unwillingly, "What kind of technique are you doing?" Lu Chen smiled and replied, "Demon burial technique." When you hear this name, you know what this technique is used for. Obviously, this technique is specially used to deal with demons. At this time, the devil laughed, and then the devilish energy in his body surged, Ha 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 ha, it's not that easy to kill me. No one in this world can kill me. If you dare to seriously injure me, I want you to die. As he spoke, the demon broke away from his human body and instantly turned into a mass of demon soul and rushed towards Lu Chen. Lu Chen immediately used the exorcism flag to suppress the devil's energy, and then used the Dangzhen City demon burial technique again, intending to give the devil a final blow. However, when he struck out with his palm, he found something was wrong. He easily scattered the devil's soul. The devil didn't even scream. This was too fake. At this time, a small ball of black energy slipped out directly from the door. Lu Chen has now perfected the demon burying technique and is very sensitive to demonic energy. He was instantly aware of the black energy. The corner of Lu Chen's mouth raised slightly, and then he transformed and rushed directly to the front of the escape route of the black energy. Sorry. This road is blocked. While speaking, Lu Chen struck out with another palm, and a blue palm shot instantly hit the black air. The next moment, the scream of the demon came. Ah! How could I die? Seeing that the demon was not dead yet, Lu Chen once again gathered all his spiritual power and struck out with another palm. This palm directly blasted away the demon's soul. Seeing that the demon was killed so easily by Lu Chen, both Lu Qingqiu and Mu Yongzi stayed where they were. End of chapter. Subscribe to Chinese Novel Audio Wave. Chapter 578 The Proactive Ziobai. Mu Yongzi and Lu Qingqiu both felt the devilish aura of the heavenly demon just now. Judging from the concentration of the devilish aura of the devil, he at least had the strength of the creation realm. The heavenly demon possesses the strength of the creation realm, so he can be said to be invincible against the creation realm monks. However, the heavenly demon was actually defeated by Lu Chen, a heavenly being. Moreover, he was beaten unilaterally, and he had no ability to fight back. The key was that Lu Chen ended the battle with just a few palms. From the time the heavenly demon appeared to the time when the heavenly demon was executed, there was not even an hour, no, to be precise, not even half an hour. Has Lu Chen's strength reached this level? The two women retreated in their hearts again. They originally thought that after their strength recovered, they would have a chance to assassinate Lu Chen. But now it seems that Lu Chen's strength may have already surpassed the heavenly realm. In fact, Lu Qingqiu and Mu Yongzi misunderstood Lu Chen. Lu Chen's own strength was not particularly strong, and he was just an ordinary celestial being. He was able to destroy the demon so easily because of the exorcism flag and the demon burial technique. Without the exorcism flag and the demon burial technique, it would have been impossible for him to destroy the demon so easily. Let alone destroy the demon, he himself might have been killed. Devoured by the devil. With the skills and treasures against heavenly demons, Lu Chen will be able to fight against heavenly demons who are several levels above him in the future. He can now be said to be the devil's nemesis. After dealing with the demon, Lu Chen turned to look at Lu Qingqiu and Mu Yongzi, and said with a smile, "Now that the demon has been killed, there is no danger in this world for the time being." Hearing Lu Chen's voice, the two women came back to their senses. Seeing Lu Chen's meaningful smile, they instantly felt that their delicate bodies could not help but tremble. Daqian has been wiped out, the plague is gone, and now the source of the plague, the demon, has also been wiped out. Doesn't Lu Chen have nothing important to do next? It's probably self-evident what he would do when he was free. The two women instantly had the idea of running away immediately, but they still kept their senses. If they ran away now, with Lu Chen's strength, they might not be able to. After leaving Daqian capital, he was directly killed by Lu Chen using that special earth-level spiritual weapon. Now they can only temporarily hold back this lecher, and then find a way to escape from this place while he is not paying attention. Mu Yongzi pretended to be very calm at this time and said with a smile, "I didn't expect that His Majesty is so powerful. He only needs a slight move to destroy a demon." Hearing Mu Yongzi's compliment, Lu Chen smiled and said, I'm so powerful, so it doesn't seem to be too difficult for you to become my woman, right? This. Mu Yongzi hurriedly said, Your Majesty, the relationship between a man and a woman is about your own will. If you are too forceful, even if you get the other person's body, you will not be able to get the other person's heart. If you only get the other person's body and the other person's mind is not on you, then you are no different from getting a puppet. Lu Chen pretended to agree and said, What Fairy Yongzi said makes sense. Then you can live in my harem with peace of mind and cultivate more relationships with me. When we have feelings, when the love reaches a deep level, we will put the relationship between you and me. What was done was done. Hearing Lu Chen's words, the two women knew that this lecherous man was determined to occupy their bodies, but they couldn't talk back at this time. If they acted too fiercely now, Lu Chen would definitely guess them. If they want to escape, this guy will keep staring at them, and their chances of successfully escaping will be greatly reduced. At this time, Lu Chen walked to the desk in the royal study and sat down, and said calmly to Mu Yongzi and Lu Qingqiu, Two fairies, it's late at night, please go back and rest. The two women didn't say anything more, they just turned around and left. When the two women walked out of the imperial study and were some distance away from the imperial study, Lu Qingqiu sent a message to Mu Yongzi, Are you really planning to be his woman? Mu Yongzi smiled slightly and said via voice, Now we can only temporarily stabilize him. As you can see, he is not an ordinary person. Even the demon is not his opponent. If we really take action against him, I am afraid our fate will be the same. Just like the demon just now. Seeing that Mu Yongzi was planning like this, Lu Qingqiu had no choice but to let go of the unrealistic thoughts in her heart. She originally thought about trying to escape tonight. If Mu Yongzi could help her divert her attention, she would escape is more likely to be successful. But looking at Mu Yongzi's appearance, Mu Yongzi is more cautious and probably won't listen to her ploys. In this case, just wait, you will always wait until the right time. At this time, Mu Yongzi suddenly thought of something, and the messenger joked, You are a powerful clone, and now you are imprisoned as a concubine by an emperor from a lower world. If your main body knows about this, not I know how angry it would be. If your body is still broken by Lu Chen, do you think your main body will kill you directly? Faced with Mu Yongzi's teasing, Lu Qingqiu just snorted without saying anything. Then she kicked her legs and disappeared, and soon she returned to her bedroom. Seeing Lu Qingqiu leaving, the smile on Mu Yongzi's face became even brighter. Although she had no way to get rid of Lu Chen for the time being, she felt much better when she thought of a powerful clone accompanying her. Mu Yongzi then returned to the palace and continued to meditate to restore his cultivation. After Mu Yongzi and Lu Qingqiu left, Bai Qingqing entered the imperial study. Seeing Lu Chen still reading the scroll, Bai Qingqing asked, Does your majesty need to sleep with you tonight? I'll go down and prepare. For Lu Chen, there is no big deal anymore. He only needs to provide a general direction on how to govern Daqian. Soon the officials he trained in the north to govern the country will come to Daqian. In other words, Lu Chen is now free, so Bai Qingqing feels that the pressure that Lu Chen has accumulated for so long should be released. Originally, Bai Qingqing thought that Lu Chen would choose any of the two fairies he captured in the end. One person slept with him, but he didn't expect that Lu Chen had no choice. Since they were not chosen, Bai Qingqing thought that as Lu Chen's personal maid, she should take the initiative to help Lu Chen relieve the pressure. Hearing Bai Qingqing's words, Lu Chen put down the scroll in his hand and looked up at Bai Qingqing's frosty face with a hint of blush. Lu Chen smiled and said, Xiao Bai, why are you so proactive today? Hearing this, Bai Qingqing said quickly, Your Majesty has been working hard for many days, and your subordinates are afraid of your Majesty. Before Bai Qingqing finished speaking, Lu Chen interrupted and said, I'm really under a lot of pressure recently. Come over here. After hearing Lu Chen's order, Bai Qingqing came directly in front of Lu Chen without any hesitation. Bai Qingqing's face turned red at a speed visible to the naked eye. When she came to Lu Chen, she knelt down on one knee without saying a word, and then approached Lu Chen. End of chapter. Chapter 579. Bai Qingqing is pregnant. After Bai Qingqing became Lu Chen's woman, she followed Lu Chen most of the time. Although she had been named a noble concubine, her duty was still to serve Lu Chen. After following Lu Chen for a long time, Bai Qingqing also learned a lot about how to take care of others. At this time, Lu Chen was still holding Dagan's scroll and looking at it. He would occasionally glance at the cold beauty in front of him with the corner of his eyes. Bai Qingqing had indeed studied hard before, and now Lu Chen was particularly satisfied with Bai Qingqing's little tricks. At this time, Lu Chen thought to himself that now that he was a god, he didn't know whether it would be more difficult to have children in the future than before. Just when Lu Chen was distracted, Bai Qingqing suddenly started coughing and looked very uncomfortable. Lu Chen quickly patted her back. After Bai Qingqing recovered, she blushed and said thank you, Your Majesty. Lu Chen smiled slightly, and then said, okay, that's it. Hearing this, Bai Qingqing thought that was the end of Lu Chen's intention, and she immediately said, yes, Your Majesty. As soon as she finished speaking, Bai Qingqing was about to stand up and leave. As soon as she stood up, Lu Chen grabbed her wrist and pulled her into Lu Chen's arms. Bai Qingqing's brain froze for a moment, but she didn't move and allowed Lu Chen to favor him. Lu Chen whispered in Bai Qingqing's ear, Xiao Bai, look at all your sisters who have given birth to children. When will you give birth to one for me? Hearing this, Bai Qingqing's whole body became even hotter, and she fell limply in Lu Chen's arms. If Lu Chen hadn't held her, she would have collapsed on the ground. Bai Qingqing whispered at this time, as long as I can get pregnant, I will give birth to Your Majesty. Bai Qingqing is actually not particularly willing to give birth to a child for Lu Chen. Of course, this is not because Bai Qingqing dislikes Lu Chen, but because she feels that if she gives birth to a child for Lu Chen, she will not be able to serve Lu Chen all the time. It's Chen. If she had a child, she would definitely take care of the child. She preferred to stay with Lu Chen than the child. Ever since she resumed her relationship, she has developed a very strong sense of dependence on Lu Chen. But she also knew in her heart that Lu Chen seemed to have an obsession with children, and he especially liked children. Since Lu Chen liked them, it was okay for her to give Lu Chen one. I just don't know if I can get pregnant. The higher the level of a warrior, the harder it is to have an heir. Lu Chen is already a heavenly being, and it is even more difficult for a heavenly being to have a child. After hearing Bai Qingqing's words, Lu Chen smiled and said, subordinate? Xiao Bai, didn't I tell you that you should call me husband when no one is around, and you should not call yourself a subordinate? Bai Qingqing immediately changed her words and said, I know I was wrong. Lu Chen said again in a questioning tone, slave. Bai Qingqing quickly changed her words again, I am in the wrong, please punish me. Having said this, Bai Qingqing looked up at Lu Chen's handsome face. At this time, Lu Chen was looking at her with a smirk on his face. Lu Chen put his claws into Bai Qingqing's clothes and said on her face, you really should be punished, lest you always fail to remember my words. Having said this, Lu Chen kissed Bai Qingqing's red lips, and then Bai Qingqing let Lu Chen do whatever he wanted. Soon, Bai Qingqing's voice calling husband and good brother came from the imperial study. After an unknown amount of time, Lu Chen stopped punishing Bai Qingqing. He glanced at his system interface subconsciously. He seemed to have heard a system prompt just now. The host and his wife cultivate a relationship once, and the experience value of practicing Qiju will be increased. Congratulations to the host for helping his wife and concubine Bai Qingqing become pregnant, and the reward is below Dragon Crystal. Seeing the system interface in front of him, Lu Chen chuckled. Almost all of his techniques had been practiced to the great perfection, and there was nothing left to improve. At this time, Lu Chen's eyes fell on Bai Qingqing's pregnancy reward, and he felt a little happy. He originally thought that it would be more difficult for his wives to become pregnant after he became a heavenly being. Unexpectedly, Bai Qingqing would be hit not long after. It seemed that she would not have to worry about this in the future. Let's see what the Below Dragon Crystal rewarded by the system is for. Then Lu Chen clicked on the introduction of Below Dragon Crystal. Blue Dragon Crystal, the reverse scale on the ancient divine dragon, a material needed to repair the heavenly order in this world. Seeing this introduction, Lu Chen was stunned. Repair the way of heaven in this world? He remembered that after the reincarnation stone is unsealed, it can also be used to repair the way of heaven. Does it require a lot of materials to repair the way of heaven and perfect the laws of this world? Don't just need the reincarnation stone? Forget it, let's wait until those 3 children of ours are born and see what the system will reward us by then. In a few decades, the restrictions in the mist world will disappear, so don't reward yourself with useless things. Thinking of this, Lu Chen came to his senses and gently stroked the cold beauty lying in his arms. Bai Qingqing hugged Lu Chen's waist with her beautiful arms and lay her whole face on Lu Chen's chest. The smell of this man made her feel extremely reassured. Lu Chen said with a smile, "Xiao Bai, you can go back to Yanqing tomorrow." Hearing this, Bai Qingqing instantly woke up from her dazed state. Back to Yanqing? Why did Lu Chen ask her to return to Yanqing? Was there anything she did that dissatisfied him? For a moment, Bai Qingqing felt anxious. Bai Qingqing quickly raised her head, looked into Lu Chen's eyes and asked, "Your Majesty, did I fail to please your Majesty? I am still okay." Hearing Bai Qingqing's words, Lu Chen smiled slightly, then raised his hand, stroked Bai Qingqing's jade cheek and said, "That's not true, it's just that you are already pregnant with my child. I won't be here for a while. I will go back to Yanqing. I don't want anything to happen to the child, so I plan to let you go back to Yanqing to raise the baby first. Lu Chen needs to stay in Daqian for a while. After Daqian stabilizes, Lu Chen has one more thing to do, and that is to go to Fenjian Island. He has wanted to visit Fenjian Island for a long time, but the world has not been unified yet, so he has never had time. Now that the world has been unified, national affairs can be left to the ministers, and he has free time. He wanted to see what the metal building on Fenjian Island was, whether it was a spaceship. After hearing Lu Chen's words, Bai Qingqing was slightly stunned. Is there a child in her belly? So fast? Then there's no way. Bai Qingqing suddenly felt very disappointed, and then she said, I understand. Lu Chen continued, when you go back, tell Zixuan and the others that you don't have to worry too much about me. I will return to Yanqing after I finish my own business. Bai Qingqing said, Yes, Your Majesty. At this time, Lu Chen glanced at the dark night outside the window and continued, It's time for us to rest. Let's change places. As he spoke, Lu Chen directly hugged Bai Qingqing's hips and stood up. The next moment, he apparat to his temporary palace and placed Bai Qingqing on his bed. Feeling Lu Chen's fiery eyes, Bai Qingqing instantly understood what Lu Chen meant. After all, they had just been attacked and they could continue with what they had done before. End of chapter. Chapter 580. Flustered Lu Qingqiu. In order to let Bai Qingqing leave her, not missing himself so much, Lu Chen spent the next few days cultivating a relationship with Bai Qingqing every night. A few days later, Lu Chen was lying on the bed, and the cold beauty Bai Qingqing was lying in Lu Chen's arms. She was exhausted at this time, and she had no strength at all. She was leaving tomorrow. She originally planned to make her man happy before returning to Yanqing, but in the end she couldn't persist. There was nothing that could be done about it. After Lu Chen became a celestial being, his strength increased significantly, and it was simply not something she could handle alone. At this time, Bai Qingqing thought of something and whispered, "Your Majesty will not return to Yanqing for a while. Why don't you ask some sisters to come and serve your Majesty before I can wait for my concubine to return to Yanqing?" Bai Qingqing thought that Lu Chen had broken through to the realm of heaven and man. Not only had his strength increased, but his desires might also have become stronger, so she worried that there would be no one to take care of Lu Chen after she left. Hearing Bai Qingqing's words, Lu Chen said, "Xiao Bai, have you forgotten that there are 2 fairies I captured in the palace?" Bai Qingqing reacted instantly, "Yes, those 2 fairies were so beautiful, it was impossible for Lu Chen to be careless, and they were stronger, so maybe they could resist." Bai Qingqing then said, I understand. Lu Chen continued, "After you return to Yanqing, take good care of the baby. When you give birth to the baby, you can continue to be my maid." Lu Chen also knew what Bai Qingqing was thinking. Bai Qingqing was afraid that she would not be able to stay with him all the time after having a child. Hearing what Lu Chen said, Bai Qingqing's delicate body trembled slightly. After coming back to her senses, she quickly said, "Thank you, Your Majesty." Lu Chen smiled slightly and gently stroked Bai Qingqing's jade back. Early the next morning, Bai Qingqing left Daqian Palace and embarked on the road back to Yanqing. At the same time, Qianing Palace. Lu Qingqiu was sitting in the pavilion, carefully sipping the dragon and phoenix tea given by Lu Chen. These days, Lu Qingqiu and Mu Yongzi are drinking Lu Chen's dragon and phoenix tea. At first, they were a little worried about Lu Chen's dragon and phoenix tea, fearing that there was something in it. But as they drank more often, they discovered that not only did the dragon and phoenix tea not cause any harm to their bodies, it actually accelerated their body's recovery speed, which made them completely defenseless against dragon and phoenix tea. In their opinion, Lu Chen was trying to please the 2 of them, so he gave them some precious spiritual tea. After Lu Qingqiu sipped tea for a while, he planned to continue practicing. At this moment, a maid entered the courtyard and quickly came to the pavilion where Lu Qingqiu was. When Lu Qingqiu saw that it was her maid, she immediately asked, "Xiao Qing, what's the matter?" Since Lu Chen moved into Daqian Palace, most of the people in the palace have been dismissed. However, Lu Chen left behind some maids, including those who used to serve Lu Qingqiu. Lu Qingqiu still regarded Lu Chen's actions as a sign of goodwill to her, and she just used her maids to find out what was going on outside and in the palace. The maid named Xiao Qing immediately entered the pavilion and reported carefully, "Queen, the maid named Bai beside your Majesty left the palace today and seems to have returned to Yanqing." Since Lu Chen moved into the palace, Bai Qingqing has been arranging all kinds of things around Lu Chen, including food, clothing, and housing, so the maids in the palace are all familiar with Bai Qingqing. Bai Qingqing left early this morning and was replaced by another maid, and the maids knew it immediately. After hearing this, Lu Qingqiu said lightly, "Just leave, she is just a maid." Just as Lu Qingqiu said this, he suddenly thought of something and asked, "Wait a minute, who did you say left?" The maid continued to answer, "It is the maid who has been following His Majesty. His Majesty has always called her Xiao Bai." Hearing this, Lu Qingqiu frowned slightly. She has also heard about what happened in the past few days. Her perception is so strong that what happened in the palace cannot escape her perception. In the past few nights, Lu Chen has been doing that kind of thing with the maid every night. From this, it can be seen that Lu Chen is indeed a person with strong desires. Although Lu Chen has never extended his claws to her and Mu Yongzi, this may be because Lu Chen's maid has taken good care of Lu Chen. Now that the personal maid has left Lu Chen, and there is no beautiful enough woman around Lu Chen, isn't it very likely that Lu Chen will turn his attention to her and Mu Yongzi? Thinking of this, Lu Qingqiu frowned slightly and asked the maid again, "Who took over her position? Is she beautiful? How does it compare with the previous maid?" The maid thought for a while and replied, "Empress, the maid named Bai who took over the job is just an ordinary female guard. Her appearance is far different from the previous maid. Lu Qingkai fell into silence. Her instinct told her that she might be in trouble next. No, she has to hurry up and escape from this place. If she continues to wait, I'm afraid she will become that man's slave. These days, she has been using her spiritual power to sense what is happening in the palace. Although she has not seen it with her own eyes, she has also sensed how Lu Chen dealt with his personal maid, which made her feel a little afraid of Lu Chen. At this moment, Lu Qingkai was already planning in his mind how to escape from the palace tonight so that he could remain unnoticed. At dusk, as the sun set, Lu Chen sat on the chair in the imperial study room and stretched. At this time, the maid who took over Bai Qingqing's work asked, "Your Majesty, which lady do you need to arrange for your bed tonight?" Hearing this, Lu Chen said, "There is no need to deliberately arrange it." At this point, Lu Chen suddenly thought of something interesting, so he said, "In this case, you send someone to tell Mrs. Lu and Mrs. Mu respectively that I will go to their palaces for dinner tonight." The maid was not surprised when she heard this. The female guards around Lu Chen all knew Lu Chen's strength. Although they had not been favored by Lu Chen, they were the ones responsible for protecting Lu Chen after all. While Lu Chen was busy inside the room, they were also standing guard outside the room. The maid in front of Lu Chen knew very well that Lu Chen was fully capable of going to Lu Qingkai's bedroom and still had the energy to go to Mu Yongzi's bedroom. She immediately said, "I will send someone to inform the two ladies." As soon as she finished speaking, the maid turned and left the imperial study, and arranged for someone to notify Lu Qingkai and Mu Yongzi. Seeing the maid's leaving figure, Lu Chen thought to himself. Once Lu Qingkai and Mu Yongzi heard that he was going to their dormitory, they would definitely feel that he was going to do that kind of thing to them, and some of them would definitely want to escape. As long as they dare to run away, he will immediately chase them. Whoever he catches, he can use their escape as an excuse to punish them. End of chapter. Chapter 581 Fairy Lu, where are you going? Seeing that the sun had set in the sky, leaving only the crimson sunset hanging in the sky, Lu Qingkai, who was sitting in the pavilion, could no longer resist the urge in his heart and wanted to escape. But she didn't dare to leave now. If she ran away now, Lu Chen might sense it immediately and come out to catch her. Lu Chen had the habit of sleeping every day. As long as Lu Chen fell asleep at night, her chance would come. Even if Lu Chen sensed that she had escaped later, he would not be able to react immediately. But just when Lu Qingkai was ready to escape, a female guard entered Jianing Palace. Seeing this female guard, Lu Qingkai immediately frowned. This female guard is Lu Chen's close guard. She is someone who otherwise serves and protects Lu Chen. There must be something going on when she comes to visit Ning Palace. Before Lu Qingkai could ask, the female guard saluted Lu Qingkai and said, "I have met Mrs. Lu." Lu Qingkai and Mu Yongzi have not been officially canonized, so now everyone in the palace calls them Madam. Only after she is officially canonized will people call her Lu Gaifei or Mu Gaifei. At this time, Lu Qingkai asked with an indifferent expression, "What's the matter?" The female guard raised her head and said, "His Majesty said he would come to your place for dinner tonight, so he asked you to prepare in advance." Hearing this, Lu Qingkai's face instantly became even colder, with a hint of panic in the coldness. Sure enough, just as she thought, this guy had already set his sights on her. This guy's plaything left, and there was no one to accompany him during the long night, so of course he had to look for his next target. Lu Qingkai would never allow herself to become Lu Chen's plaything. If the main body knew that she had lost her virginity, he would definitely kill her clone in the future. At this time, Lu Qingkai tried hard to stabilize his emotions, and then said, "I understand." The female guard immediately said, "I'm leaving." After the words fell, she turned and left. Looking at the female guard's leaving figure, Lu Qingkai knew that he could not wait any longer. If she continues to wait, I'm afraid she will become that man's delicacy tonight. Thinking of this, Lu Qingkai immediately gathered the spiritual energy around him, planning to absorb more spiritual energy at the last moment to prepare for his escape later. At the same time, the palace where Mu Yongzi is located. Mu Yongzi stood in the full-length mirror, admiring her graceful figure. She was wearing a red gauze with a tube top, revealing her slender waist and her long white legs. Mu Yongzi said to himself, "It is also a mistake to be too beautiful. If I were uglier, I might not be imprisoned here." Just as Mu Yongzi finished speaking, a maid hurriedly came in and said, "Mrs. Mu, Your Majesty sent someone to inform you that he will have dinner at your place tonight, so that you can prepare." Upon hearing this, Mu Yongzi was stunned in front of the mirror. Dinner at her place tonight? What kind of wind did Lu Chen get? Why do you suddenly want to come to your place for dinner today? I'm afraid he's not here to have a meal, right? Mu Yongzi frowned slightly, and she had a guess in her mind. Maybe Lu Chen was here for dinner, but the meal Lu Chen mentioned was probably not a normal dinner, but referring to her, who was Lu Chen's dinner. Sure enough, he still planned to attack her. No, she had to escape from this place immediately. She didn't want to lose her innocence in this inferior world. Thinking of this, Mu Yongzi immediately said to the maid, "Tell the messenger maid that I know about it, and I will start preparations now." The maid said, "Yes, madam." Then the maid turned around and left Mu Yongzi's palace. Seeing the maid's leaving figure, Mu Yongzi snorted in her heart. It was not that easy for this lustful person to want her body. Although her strength has not yet returned to its peak state, Lu Chen has given her a lot of spiritual tea recently. With those spiritual teas, her current strength has basically returned to the heavenly realm. Even if she is not Lu Chen's opponent, there is still no problem in escaping. Under the same circumstances, as long as she wants to escape, she does not believe that Lu Chen can catch up with her. Lu Chen was still reading official documents in the imperial study at this time. After he asked someone to pass on the message, he had been waiting for Lu Qingkai and Mu Yongzi to leave. As the red clouds on the horizon gradually dissipated, the whole world entered the dark night. At this time, the atmosphere in the palace was very strange, making people feel extremely depressed. Lu Chen saw that it was already dark outside the window, but Lu Qingkai and Mu Yongzi had not made any move yet. He thought in his heart that he should give them a little stimulation. So he stood up and walked outside the imperial study. Lu Chen knew very well that Lu Qingkai and Mu Yongzi had been paying attention to the situation in the imperial study. As long as he moved, the two women would be able to feel it. Just as Lu Chen thought, as soon as he stood up, a strong spiritual power wave appeared in Mu Yongzi's bedroom. Mu Yongzi ran away towards Dongcheng as fast as possible. After feeling the fluctuation of spiritual power in Mu Yongzi's palace, Lu Qingkai was stunned for a moment. She was a little confused. Lu Chen just came to see her tonight. She and Mu Yunxi is in a different palace, why is Mu Yongzi more anxious than her? But having said that, this is a good opportunity for her. Mu Yongzi's escape must have attracted Lu Chen's attention. After Lu Chen chased Mu Yongzi, he ran away in the opposite direction. At that time, Lu Chen had no way to catch up with her. However, it only took a moment for Lu Qingkai to realize that his plan had failed. Lu Chen did not pursue Mu Yongzi, but came directly towards Jianing Palace. Lu Qingkai was stunned for a moment. What was going on? Mu Yongzi had already run away. Why didn't Lu Chen chase after him? Did he plan to let Mu Yongzi go just like that? Compared with beauty, Mu Yongzi is not much different from her. In fact, Lu Chen didn't pay much attention to Mu Yongzi's escape. His target from the beginning tonight was not Mu Yongzi, but Lu Qingkai. If Mu Yongzi wants to run away, just let her run away. It won't be long before Mu Yongzi will come back on her own, just like Xue Linglong did back then. After sensing that Lu Chen was getting closer and closer to Jianing Palace, Lu Qingkai knew that he could not wait any longer. Lu Chen was obviously here for him. Immediately, Lu Qingkai kicked off his legs and jumped directly to the roof, preparing to escape from the imperial city immediately. However, what she didn't expect was that as soon as she jumped onto the roof, a figure appeared opposite her. Lu Chen asked with a smile, "Fairy Lu, where are you planning to go?" Seeing Lu Chen coming so quickly, Lu Qingkai snorted coldly. Without saying much, he swung his sword, and a sword energy went straight towards Lu Chen. Her main purpose was not to attack Lu Chen, but to escape. She took the initiative to attack, just to make Lu Chen relax his vigilance, and then create an opportunity for herself to escape. End of chapter. Chapter 582. Do you think I don't know what you want to do? Lu Chen is now a celestial being. Lu Qingkai's sword energy does no harm to him, and he can easily dodge it. After he dodged Lu Qingkai's sword energy, he said with a smile, "I'm just here to have dinner, why is Fairy Lu so angry?" Lu Qingkai said coldly, "You think I don't know what you want to do? This guy was here for some kind of dinner. He was obviously here to eat her. If she didn't do anything, she might soon become this man's plaything. A powerful clone of her could never be insulted like this." After Lu Qingkai finished speaking, he swung his sword again. The next moment, more than a dozen sword energy flew towards Lu Chen. Lu Chen still did not fight back, but just avoided Lu Qingkai's sword energy. Seeing that Lu Chen didn't fight back, Lu Qingkai knew that this lecherous man had no plans to kill him for the time being. He was only thinking about her body, and there was indeed no need to kill her. However, even if this guy doesn't kill her, she still has to make more noise in order to escape. Only when chaos breaks out can she have a chance to escape. Thinking of this, Lu Qingkai immediately gathered all his spiritual power and directly used his strongest technique. Looking at the moon with a broken rainbow. Seeing the blood-red moon in the sky, Lu Chen frowned slightly. This woman was really unscrupulous in order to escape, and she actually used such a terrifying technique in the capital city of Daqian. A move of this level is likely to bring disaster to the entire Daqian capital. Lu Chen immediately took out his god-killing spear and aimed it at the moon in the sky. When Lu Chen attacked the red moon in the sky, Lu Qingkai saw a good opportunity and immediately ran away towards the gate of the capital. Soon, a blue light shot out from the god-killing gun, and the red moon in the sky was defeated by Lu Chen. Seeing that Lu Qingkai was no longer on the roof, the corners of Lu Chen's mouth raised slightly. For some reason, a hunting instinct suddenly arose deep in his heart. At the same time, Lu Qingkai had fled outside Daqian capital. Although she had not fully recovered her strength, she was a heavenly being after all, and a heavenly being could run very far in an instant. Although he had left the capital, Lu Qingkai was not relieved. Lu Chen was able to catch up with them last time. Now this guy is already a heavenly being, and his speed must have increased significantly. Thinking of this, Lu Qingkai continued to speed up, but in the next second, she suddenly bumped into something. Then, she felt a strong man's breath, and her whole body became weak. Lu Qingkai was stunned. What was going on? Lu Qingkai immediately looked up and found that the person she bumped into was actually Lu Chen. At this time, the two of them flew out due to inertia, but Lu Chen opened his arms and held Lu Qingkai's plump body in his arms. Lu Qingkai was a little confused. She did know that Lu Chen was very fast, but she didn't expect that she still failed to escape. No, she could never lose her innocence. So Lu Qingkai immediately gathered her spiritual power and tried to struggle away, but found that the spiritual power in her body seemed to have disappeared, and she could not mobilize it at all. Seeing that her spiritual power was sealed, Lu Qingkai instantly guessed that this was Lu Chen's handiwork. Even though she had no strength to struggle, Lu Qingkai still threatened and said, "What are you doing?" Let me go quickly. I am the clone of the holy ancestor of Union sect in the falling sun world. If you really do that kind of thing to me, my master will definitely send people to chase you to the ends of the earth. Lu Chen laughed, and then said, I didn't say I would do anything like that to you. I just said I would come to your palace for dinner, and you ran away in fear. Lu Qingkai said coldly, you think I am a fool? She and Mu Yongzi have been imprisoned in the palace for so long. When did Lu Chen say that he would come to have dinner with the two of them, but today this guy suddenly sent someone to say that he wanted to have dinner at her place. She would definitely not believe it if this guy had no other thoughts. I'm afraid it's not dinner he wants to eat, but her, or the dinner in Lu Chen's mouth refers to her. After Lu Chen stabilized his body, he directly controlled Lu Qingkai's arms, placed her hands on her hips, then held her waist, and moved directly towards the palace. Seeing that she was getting closer and closer to the palace, Lu Qingkai became even more panicked. She twisted her body and said, what did you do to me? Why is the spiritual power in my body blocked? Even if you don't think about yourself, you should also think about your wives, concubines, and children. Once the Union sect sends people to this world and finds out what you have committed, none of your wives, concubines, and children will be able to escape. Hearing Lu Qingkai's threat, Lu Chen said with a smile, I don't care about this, but when the Union sect you talk about really comes to this world, you will already be my wife, and maybe I will have more children. Already. As soon as she heard that Lu Chen actually wanted her to give birth to a child for him, Lu Qingkai struggled even more fiercely. However, Lu Qingkai and Lu Chen were tightly stuck together, and her struggle made Lu Chen even more excited. A moment later, Lu Chen escorted Lu Qingkai back to Jianing Palace. After entering the room, Lu Chen placed Lu Qingkai on the soft couch. However, at this time, Lu Qingkai stopped struggling. Her beautiful eyes were fixed on Lu Chen, as if waiting for his next move. Seeing that Lu Qingkai stopped struggling, Lu Chen asked curiously, what's wrong? Why don't you continue to struggle? Lu Qingkai said coldly, if you are not afraid of death, just continue. I have reminded you that the main body of this palace is the holy ancestor of the Union sect. Even if you have a powerful immortal cultivating family behind you, you cannot be the Union sect opponent. Lu Chen asked curiously, I'm very curious, what state is your main body in now? Lu Qingkai said, the 10th level of God transformation is just one step away from breaking through to the return to ruins realm. This. After Lu Chen was stunned for a moment, a smile appeared on his face, if your main body was a saint or an emperor, I might have panicked, but then you told me that your main body was in the realm of God transformation. When I see your main body in the future, I will include your main body into the harem. Hearing Lu Chen's words, Lu Qingkai fell silent. Through Lu Chen's words, she got a shocking fact. Lu Chen is not afraid of those in the Guisu realm and the God transformation realm. This shows that the forces behind Lu Chen have stronger beings than those in the Guisu realm, and there may even be saints. If this is really the case, doesn't it mean that even if the subject knows that he has lost his innocence, there is nothing he can do against this guy? Seeing Lu Qingkai lying there looking helpless, Lu Chen said with a smile, you escaped without permission, and you will definitely be punished tonight. Lu Qingkai said coldly, even if you get my body, you will never get my heart. Lu Chen said, what's the use of your heart? Your body is enough. Hearing Lu Chen's words, Lu Qingkai was speechless. End of chapter. Chapter 583 Lu Qingkai, I admit defeat, you win. Facing Lu Chen, a lustful, scoundrel guy who was fearless, Lu Qingkai had absolutely no choice. She closed her beautiful eyes and just lay rigidly on the soft couch. Although she cares about innocence, for someone like her who has lived for countless years, it is still not that important compared to life. She had previously acted like she was fighting for her innocence, but in fact she was not really fighting, she was just trying to intimidate Lu Chen. As a result, this lecherous person didn't accept this trick at all. If Lu Chen didn't accept her trick, then she would be completely helpless. Besides, now that the spiritual power in her body is sealed, she can't even self-destruct her danshan. She can't commit suicide even if she wants to, so she can only accept her fate. Seeing Lu Qingkai's face accepting his fate, Lu Chen was a little speechless, and then said with a smile, "Fairy Lu, at least try to struggle, what's the point of lying down like this?" Lu Qingkai has a beautiful appearance, a cold complexion, and a skin as white as snow. Her slightly trembling eyelashes, delicate nose and alluring red lips are like a carved work of art. But when Lu Qingkai closed his eyes, he was almost like a puppet lying in a coffin. For Lu Chen, if his wives and concubines did not express feedback, he would be almost uninterested. Take Bai Qingqing, a cold beauty, for example. Bai Qingqing is usually expressionless, but when she develops a relationship with him, Bai Qingqing will still blush and her heartbeat will speed up, and she will call her good brother or husband. This is the feedback given to Lu Chen. But now Lu Qingkai's face was not red, and his heart was not beating, and he was not struggling at all. Even though he looked stunning, Lu Chen's inner interest was much less. At this time, Lu Qingkai opened his beautiful eyes again, looked at the man in front of him, and then said, "Aren't you going to occupy my body? If you want to do anything, do it quickly, don't waste my time." This. Lu Chen immediately said, "Okay, since you said so, then I will help you." As soon as he finished speaking, Lu Chen leaned down and kissed Lu Qingkai's red lips. Lu Qingkai snorted softly in her heart, thinking that she had been bitten by a dog. But just when she was thinking this, she found that Lu Chen's mouth was restless. Lu Qingkai struggled for a while, but in the end, Lu Chen succeeded. Lu Chen's kissing skills were very superb, and he was not in a hurry to do anything bad to Lu Qingkai today. Lu Chen kissed and stroked Lu Qingkai's gauze with his paws. Feeling Lu Chen's big hands, Lu Qingkai suddenly had goosebumps all over his body. As time passed by, Lu Chen still didn't do anything like that to Lu Qingkai, he just kissed and touched this and that. Lu Qingkai originally wanted to be patient for a while, but he quickly passed it, only to find that Lu Chen hadn't taken any action. At this time, Lu Qingkai's starry eyes were filled with mist, her cheeks were flushed, and her whole person was charming. At this time, Lu Chen looked up at Lu Qingkai and said jokingly, "Hey, Fairy Lu, what's wrong with you?" When Lu Chen saw his ugly appearance, Lu Qingkai immediately clenched his teeth and tried hard to control his inner restlessness. Lu Qingkai said fiercely, "What on earth do you want to do?" Lu Chen said, "You know exactly what I want to do." Lu Qingkai said, "If you humiliate me like this today, I will take revenge one day." She has nothing to say now. Lu Chen is not even afraid of the person behind her. What can she do? At this time, Lu Qingkai slightly retracted her slender legs, and then twisted her body. As a result, her small movements were instantly noticed by Lu Chen. Lu Chen directly spread her legs and suppressed her to prevent her from moving. "You!" Lu Qingkai was ashamed and angry. Seeing Lu Qingkai's appearance, Lu Chen smiled and said, "That's right. What did you mean by lying straight on the bed just now? You bastard! I will fight with you." As she spoke, Lu Qingkai looked like she was about to get up and fight Lu Chen. As a result, her whole body became weak, and Lu Chen easily made her unable to move. Lu Qingkai tried to divert his attention at this time and asked, "Why don't you go after Mu Yongzi, but instead catch me? She is so charming, she must be very good at serving others." Mu Yongzi wore translucent gauze all day long, with her belly and long legs exposed. It was impossible for Lu Chen not to like such a seductive woman like her. Lu Chen said with a smile, "Take your time, you won't become fat after one bite." Lu Qingkai said, now that she has escaped, I'm afraid you will never have the chance to touch her again. Lu Chen said nonchalantly, she wants to leave this world, and she can only come to me in the end. Having said this, Lu Chen stretched out his hand, lifted Lu Qingkai's delicate chin, looked into her beautiful eyes and said, okay, let's not talk about her. Let's talk about the things between us. Lu Qingkai completely resigned to her fate now. She didn't know if this guy Lu Chen had done anything to her. Anyway, she couldn't resist Lu Chen anymore. Lu Qingkai said weakly, I admit defeat, you win. She didn't care about innocence at this moment. Just know if the main body knows it. Even if the main body wants to kill her, she doesn't care. Being killed in an instant is better than being tortured now. Seeing that Lu Qingkai had given up, Lu Chen finally stopped holding back and leaned forward, blocking Lu Qingkai's red lips. Soon, Lu Qingkai made a long sound of a. At the same time, after Mu Yongzi escaped from Daqian capital, he always felt that something was wrong. Mu Yongzi stood on a hilltop and looked in the direction of Daqian capital. Mu Yongzi said to himself, strange, why didn't Lu Chen come after me? She had already run away. According to Lu Chen's character, he would definitely come to catch her. Could it be? Mu Yongzi thought of a possibility. It is very likely that when she ran away, Lu Qingkai thought it was a good opportunity, so Lu Qingkai also ran away. She and Lu Qingkai ran in two directions. After Lu Chen ran after Lu Qingkai, there was no way to catch her again. No wonder she felt the spiritual energy fluctuations in Qianning Palace when she escaped just now. Thinking of this, Mu Yongzi breathed a sigh of relief. But at this moment, Mu Yongzi suddenly felt a strange feeling in her heart. She didn't know what this feeling was. It felt a bit like loss. Mu Yongzi said to himself, that guy didn't come after me. Does he think Lu Qingkai is more beautiful than me? He wants Lu Qingkai's body more. After Mu Yongzi finished speaking, he stood on the top of the mountain and looked towards Daqian capital for a long time before finally leaving. Now that she has escaped from Lu Chen's clutches, she should think of other ways to leave this world. Now that Lu Chen is here, it is impossible for her to use the previous method to leave this world. She can only think of other ways. Method. Early morning. Qianning Palace. Congratulations to the host for getting a wife and concubine, and will be rewarded with the heavenly level skill Suan skill. The host and his wife cultivate a relationship once, and the experience value of practicing Qiju will be increased. End of chapter. Subscribe to Chinese Novel Audio Wave. Chapter 584 The Function of Suan Gong. Lu Chen was stunned for a moment when he saw the rewards from the system. Xian Nu Gong? From this look, it seems that it is not the technique that I have practiced. This should be a technique practiced by women, right? Thinking of this, Lu Chen immediately clicked on the introduction of Suan Kung Fu. Xian Nu Kung Fu, heaven level Kung Fu, the host's wives and concubines can practice it. After practicing with the Dragon and Phoenix Yin and Yang Kung Fu, the host's wives and concubines can quickly improve their level. Really? Lu Chen originally thought that the system would reward him with a useless skill, but then he thought about it. His wives and concubines are very weak, and he may not always be by their side in the future. For example, this time, if their strength increases, and I can go out more confidently. Although this skill is not to reward himself, it cannot be said to be useless. When he returns to Yanqinch, he will let his wives practice the Suan skill. At this time, Lu Qingkai saw that Lu Chen had no movement, so he turned his head slightly and looked at Lu Chen behind him. After one night, Lu Qingkai had been completely surrendered by Lu Chen. She never dreamed that after being occupied by Lu Chen, she would actually feel free. In the past, as a clone of the holy ancestor of Union sect, no matter what she did, she would be affected by the main body, so she would feel bound. And after she became Lu Chen's woman last night, the feelings that Lu Chen brought to her made her feel that she was completely out of the control of the main body, as if she was completely free. Seeing Lu Qingkai turning his head, Lu Chen also came back to his senses and stared at Lu Qingkai's face with misty starry eyes and red cheeks. Lu Qingkai said feebly, "You have obtained my body, now you are satisfied." Lu Chen raised his hand, gently passed it across Lu Qingkai's jade back, and said with a smile, "Satisfied, quite satisfied." Lu Qingkai continued to ask, "What do you plan to do with me?" Lu Qingkai thought in his heart that he was the clone of the holy ancestor of the Union sect. Although Lu Chen said that he was not afraid of her main body, he could not say that Lu Chen just wanted to get her body and then said it harshly. And even if Lu Chen is really not afraid of her main body, he will probably find it troublesome and not want to cause trouble. The most important thing is that Lu Chen may not completely trust her. Even if she becomes Lu Chen's woman, she may still have other thoughts. How could Lu Chen allow someone with different intentions to stay by his side? Maybe after this lecture had played with her a few times, he would get rid of her when he got tired of it. Lu Chen asked in return, "Disposal? Why should we dispose of you?" Before Lu Qingkai could speak, Lu Chen continued, "I discovered a problem. Many of my women have delusions of being persecuted. Many of them have asked me this question, asking me when I will deal with them. Do you think I'm the kind of cold and heartless man who doesn't recognize anyone when he pulls up his pants?" Hearing Lu Chen's words, Lu Qingkai sneered in his heart, and then said, "Isn't that the kind of person you are? Lu Chen is also an emperor after all. Since ancient times, the only one who can be an emperor is one who is not ruthless." Lu Chen continued, "If you are so worried about me, why don't you give me a few children? Once you have children, you won't be afraid of what I will do to you." Lu Qingkai subconsciously refused, "Absolutely impossible." Hearing this, Lu Chen was not angry. He leaned down and put his chest against her jade back. Then he put his arms around her waist and whispered in her ear, "Qingkai, I can feel you. I really want to get rid of your main body." Hearing Lu Chen's words, Lu Qingkai's delicate body trembled slightly. She didn't expect that Lu Chen would also feel the change in her mood. Seeing Lu Qingkai suddenly tense up, Lu Chen smiled and said, "Are you curious why I know this?" Lu Qingkai chuckled lightly, "Your Majesty, you are worrying too much. My spiritual consciousness is separated from the main body. How can I have the idea of getting rid of the main body?" Lu Chen said, "I have obtained many women through tricks, but even if they are confused, they will not take the initiative, and you are the only one who took the initiative that night." Lu Qingkai was so proactive that Lu Chen even suspected that this was not the first time for her. However, Lu Chen glanced at Lu Qingkai's data card and found that Lu Qingkai's data card had been updated. Lu Qingkai's data card showed that she experienced the feeling of breaking away from the shackles of the main body. She had fallen in love with this feeling, so she took the initiative. Even if Lu Chen doesn't force her now, she is still willing to develop a relationship with Lu Chen. Hearing Lu Chen's words, Lu Qingkai fell into silence. She suddenly regretted that she had taken such initiative. But this was beyond her control. After she lost the feeling of restraint, she fell in love with it. She felt that she had become an independent individual. This is the feeling of freedom. Once she enjoys it, once you are free, it is difficult to go back. Lu Qingkai said coldly, "What exactly does your Majesty want to say?" Lu Chen said with a smile, "Stay with me from now on and be my woman. If your main body dares to come, I will let her never come back." Lu Qingkai was silent for a moment and then said, "Are you really not afraid of the strong men in the ruins realm?" Lu Chen said, "My strength is improving very quickly. In less than 500 years, I will be able to reach the return to ruins state. As long as your main body does not arrive now, there will be no threat to me." This Lu Qingkai couldn't believe it. Where did Lu Chen get the confidence to break through from the heavenly realm to the returned ruins realm in less than 500 years? Are you kidding me? Even those children of destiny with special talents would need thousands of years to break through to the ruins realm, but Lu Chen actually said that he only needed 500 years. To be honest, Lu Chen was not sure when he would be able to break through to the return to ruins realm, but when he was practicing using the dragon and phoenix yin and yang kung fu last night, he found that a spiritual sea appeared in his body, and the spiritual sea was rapidly expanding. His strength it is also improving rapidly. Now he estimates that he will be able to break through to the first level of heaven and man in a few days. The Qi training technique has been perfected and is no longer useful to him. However, after Lu Chen reached the realm of heaven and man, the role of dragon and phoenix yin and yang technique came into play. This is the fastest technique for improving strength. There is no beyond the limitations of heaven. His strength will surely rise slowly. Lu Chen had an intuition that within 500 years, he would be able to break through to the realm of a saint. Although it felt like Lu Chen was bragging, Lu Chen's tone was very confident, which made Lu Qingkai feel that Lu Chen was indeed not afraid of her. Lu Qingkai then snorted coldly and said, "I have become your forbidden love now. You can play with me as you want. Why ask me if I am willing to be your woman?" Lu Qingkai no longer planned to escape. From the moment she lost her virginity, she had nowhere to go. After leaving this world, the main body will probably be able to feel her presence and know that she has lost her virginity. When the time comes, the main body will definitely come to kill her and then take back her consciousness. End of chapter. Chapter 585 Teaching Su and Kung Fu. If it were in the past, Lu Qingkai would not have to worry about being killed by the main body and then regaining her consciousness. But after experiencing the happiness that Lu Chen brought her last night, she became a wild horse and never wanted to return to the main body. Body of. What can she do now? The best way is to always hide in this world and never go out, so it will be difficult for the main body to find her. To survive in this world, she cannot avoid the man behind her. Now Lu Chen can basically be regarded as the master of this world. Even such a heaven-defying existence as the heavenly demon was eliminated by Lu Chen. Even if heaven was afraid of such a terrifying existence as Lu Chen, it would be impossible for him to do anything to Lu Chen. Lu Chen could do whatever he wanted in this world from now on. After hearing Lu Qingkai's words, Lu Chen said in her ear, "There is no such thing as forbidden love. I really intend to make you my wife." Lu Qingkai said indifferently, "You don't have to be hypocritical. Now that I have been broken by you, even if I leave this world, I will be hunted by the main body. Now that I have nowhere to go, you can do whatever you want." Lu Qingkai also figured out that since there was nowhere to go now, it was better to stay with this man. She also felt last night that this man must have practiced some dual cultivation technique that could help her quickly improve her strength. Apart from the fact that her body was being played with by Lu Chen, there seemed to be no other harm to her. For someone like her who has passed so many years, the first thing is to survive, and then to be innocent. Now that her innocence is gone, she can't just throw away her life. And this man was very special. Although he was very cruel, she couldn't dislike him at all. Maybe she didn't like Lu Chen in her heart, but she had accepted him physically, and she decided to live in Lu Chen's harem from now on. Lu Chen said, "Oh? So, you agreed to be my woman?" Lu Qingkai snorted coldly and said no more. This bastard had already eaten her up, so why did he ask? Could she run away now? Where can I run to? Lu Chen saw that Lu Qingkai had accepted his fate, so he said, "I will issue an imperial edict later to make you my noble concubine." Lu Qingkai still didn't speak. She didn't care about these titles or anything. She just wanted to become stronger quickly. Only by becoming stronger could she be able to compete with the main body and avoid being killed by the main body after she left this world. Seeing that Lu Qingkai didn't speak, Lu Chen moved his body slightly. Lu Qingkai said and immediately said, "You are such a beast." Lu Chen smiled, and then said, "Beast? I'm afraid a beast can't compare to me." Lu Qingkai had no choice in dealing with the scoundrel Lu Chen. This guy was strong and thick-skinned, and he could only be suppressed in front of him. At this time, Lu Qingkai changed the subject and said, "Have you practiced any kind of dual cultivation technique?" Lu Chen said, "Yes, it seems that you have felt it. You don't want to rely on this technique to improve your strength by my side, and then escape from this world after you improve your strength." Lu Qingkai said, "If you are afraid that I will take advantage of you, then don't touch my body in the future." Lu Qingkai really wanted to use Lu Chen's dual cultivation method to improve her strength, but when Lu Chen said these words, she was a little angry. She had been completely wiped out by him. How about using his dual cultivation method to improve some strength? Lu Chen smiled and said, "You are my wife, and it is my duty to help you improve your strength. How can I say it is taking advantage of you? It just so happens that I have a heaven-level technique here. Practicing this technique can help you recover your strength faster. Turn around and I will teach you this skill." Hearing this, Lu Qingkai turned his head slightly in doubt and looked at Lu Chen with the corner of his eyes. The next moment, Lu Chen taught Lu Qingkai the Suan Kung Fu. When Suan Kung Fu entered Lu Qingkai's mind, Lu Qingkai instantly understood the use of Suan Kung Fu, which made Lu Qingkai even more convinced that Lu Chen was the young master of a certain immortal cultivating family. Being able to take out heaven-level skills at will, his identity cannot be simple. Perhaps relying on this man, it is really possible to get rid of the main body and exist as an independent individual in the future. Just when Lu Qingkai was distracted, Lu Chen slowly stood up. When Lu Qingkai felt the emptiness in his body, he came back to his senses. However, Lu Chen did not leave, but turned her over, and then leaned down again, with their noses touching. Lu Chen looked at her beautiful eyes at close range and said, "I have now taught you Suan Kung Fu, how about you try practicing it? See what the effect is." Lu Qingkai said directly, "Okay." The next moment, she began to perform Suan Kung Fu. The moment she performed the technique, her body became extremely hot and the meridians throughout her body contracted. Lu Chen took in a breath of cold air inexplicably. This is Suan Kung Fu. No wonder the system said that he should practice the Suan Kung Fu and the Dragon and Phoenix Yin and Yang Kong together. He would be able to perform the Dragon and Phoenix Yin and Yang Kong, while his wife and concubines would be able to practice the Suan Kung Fu. Wouldn't this mean giving him? Lu Qingkai also felt the changes in his body. Is this the Suan Kung Fu? In a world with such weak spiritual energy, it was actually possible to expand the spiritual sea in her body in an instant, and even forcefully absorb the spiritual energy in Lu Chen's body. When he thought that he could forcibly absorb the spiritual power from Lu Chen's body, Lu Qingkai felt a strong desire for revenge. This guy was so cruel to her last night, and now it was finally her turn to fight back. He dared to teach her the heaven-level skills. She wanted him to know what regret was. Then Lu Qingkai continued to use the Suan Kung Fu, and Lu Chen quickly said, "Wait a minute." Lu Qingkai ignored Lu Chen's words. The opportunity to take revenge on Lu Chen was right in front of her. How could she let it go? Seeing that Lu Qingkai didn't stop exercising, Lu Chen also saw Lu Qingkai's little thoughts, and he chuckled in his heart. He was always the only one to deal with others, and Lu Qingkai wanted to teach him a lesson. Then Lu Chen directly blocked Lu Qingkai's red lips with his mouth. Immediately afterwards, Lu Chen also started to operate the Dragon and Phoenix Yin and Yang Kung Fu. At the same time, a world of mist. In a misty forest, a group of people wearing grey robes were forming an array. At this time, bursts of blue light suddenly emitted from the soles of their feet, and the next moment, a blue fox shadow appeared above them. After a while, the blue fox phantom suddenly spit out blue flames into the open space in the distance. As the blue flames spurted out, the sound of broken glass was heard in the distance. However, when the fox phantom stopped attacking, the place seemed to return to normal and nothing happened. Those people continued to control the formation to attack the open space in the distance. After an unknown amount of time, something transparent finally fell from the sky. Then, a black gap appeared in front of people. At this time, a man in a yellow robe said, "Stop. If you continue to attack, it may affect the stability of the world. This gap is enough." End of chapter. Chapter 586. I heard that the consciousness of the main body and the clone are connected. After hearing the words of the sect leader, everyone in the Linghu sect immediately stopped attacking. Looking at the gap in the distance, Zhang Hongyi, the leader of Linghu sect, stroked his beard and said with a smile, "Those people must have never imagined that before the restrictions in the mist world disappeared, we had already found a way to get to Tianchen continent." At this time, an elder of the Linghu sect said in front of Zhang Hongyi, "Sect master, you are still smart. If our people can enter the Tianchen continent in advance and the restrictions in the foggy world have not disappeared, we can occupy a large area of land." At this time, another elder said, "When the restrictions in the mist world disappear one day, and the sect forces from the mist world enter Tianchen continent, they will definitely be shocked when they see that our Linghu sect's territory is everywhere." Hearing this, everyone in Linghu sect burst out laughing, and for a moment, the forest was enveloped in a cheerful atmosphere. After everyone laughed, Zhang Hongyi said, "But having said that, the restriction still exists. Although we have found a gap in space, if we want to pass through this gap, I am afraid we need to be below the level of a heavenly being." After hearing this, an elder immediately said, "Sect master, you don't have to worry. Because of the existence of restrictions, Tianchen continent is currently a world with exhausted spiritual energy. I'm afraid there are not even cultivators in it. Even if we send disciples in the Hedao stage, can also lead the natives inside." After hearing what the elder said, Zhang Hongyi nodded slightly and said with a smile, "That's true. Okay, now that a gap has been opened, let's send some people to investigate first." The Linghu sect then sent dozens of outer sect disciples in the Hedao stage and hundreds of servants whose strength was comparable to that of the Grand Master into Tianchen continent. The purpose of their trip is very simple, that is, to occupy the various dynasties of Tianchen continent and rule the entire Tianchen continent. As for why people in the mist world are interested in Tianchen continent, a world with exhausted spiritual energy, the reason is very simple, because although Tianchen continent is in a world with incomplete laws of heaven, it is more stable than the space in the mist world. The foggy world is in a place where time and space are messed up. Some places where time and space are unstable often cause some forces to disappear inexplicably. Of course, the most important point is that after the restrictions in the mist world disappear, the aura of the mist world will flow into Tianchen continent, and Tianchen continent will soon usher in a revival of aura. When the restrictions in the mist world disappear, Tianchen continent will become a world suitable for cultivators to practice. For such a world, all the major forces in the mist world will naturally want to occupy it. At this time, the Linghu sect had no idea that heavenly beings had appeared in Tianchen continent, not only heavenly beings, but also cultivators in the creation realm. Of course, what they didn't expect was that the natives inside were already researching rune weapons that could kill heavenly beings. After Lu Chen and Lu Qingkai practiced for a day and night, both of them gained a lot of benefits. Lu Qingkai's strength basically returned to the creation realm, while Lu Chen's realm was upgraded to the first level of the heavenly realm. Feeling the spiritual pressure released from Lu Chen's body, Lu Qingkai couldn't believe it. This guy just became a heavenly being some time ago, and he has already broken through to the first level of heavenly being in just half a year? Just because you are practicing dual cultivation with yourself? Why did she feel that she was not using him, but that she was being used by Lu Chen? At this time, Lu Chen pressed down on Lu Qingkai's body, looked down at her stunning face, took a few deep breaths and said, I just taught you Suan Kung Fu, and you want to use it against me. You look down on me so much. At this time, Lu Qingkai was completely paralyzed, her beautiful eyes were full of mist, and her jade cheeks were blushing. She originally thought that no matter how powerful Lu Chen was, there was still a limit. Suan Gong was so powerful, she might be able to do this. Guys give. Unexpectedly, she was defeated in the end. As Lu Chen's spiritual power continued to enter her body, her brain gradually lost consciousness, and then she could only be at the mercy of Lu Chen. Seeing that Lu Qingkai didn't speak, Lu Chen said with a smile, but having said that, this Suan Kung Fu is indeed interesting. I can practice with you every day. Hearing this, Lu Qingkai, who was still in a daze, was stunned. Practice every day? Will he die? Lu Qingkai asked at this time, do your wives and concubines know this technique? Lu Qingkai couldn't help but wonder, since the Suan Kung Fu was so special, Lu Chen, in order to pursue happiness, asked his wives and concubines to learn the Suan Kung Fu so that they could serve him. Lu Chen replied, I haven't taught them yet. You are the first woman to obtain the Suan Kung Fu. This. Lu Qingkai looked at Lu Chen in disbelief, was she the first? I don't know why, but after hearing Lu Chen's words, Lu Qingkai felt a strange ripple in his heart, as if something had been opened. But Lu Qingkai soon realized what he was saying, and then said expressionlessly, Your Majesty must be really good at smooth talk, he almost deceived me. Lu Chen said, flattery? Didn't I answer truthfully? How did it become rhetoric? In your opinion, it is a particularly important thing for me to teach you Suan Kung Fu for the first time. Speaking of this, Lu Chen's eyes stared closely at Lu Qingkai's beautiful eyes, as if he wanted to see through her. Being looked at so directly by Lu Chen, Lu Qingkai suddenly felt his heart beating violently unconsciously. Lu Qingkai quickly turned his head to the side, not daring to continue looking at Lu Chen. Seeing the shy look on the beautiful woman's face, Lu Chen suddenly felt hot in his heart, but in the end he suppressed his inner impulse. There will be a long time to come, and he has enough time to develop a relationship with this fairy. Lu Chen asked at this time, I'm a little curious, does your main body look the same as you? Lu Qingkai suddenly became alert and said, what do you want to do? Lu Chen smiled slightly, of course he wanted to include her in the harem. Lu Qingkai snorted coldly and said, you are not ashamed of your words. With your current strength, I am afraid she can crush you to death with one finger. Lu Chen said, I always want to become stronger, as long as I am better than her from now on. At this point, Lu Chen thought of something and continued to ask, I heard that the spiritual consciousness of the clone and the main body are connected. When the clone encounters some situation, the main body can also feel it. Then it means that after we leave this world and we have sexual intercourse between men and women, your body will also have the same feelings as you. Hearing Lu Chen's question, Lu Qingkai instantly guessed what Lu Chen wanted to do, and then said coldly, if you think you don't die quickly enough, you can give it a try. It is true that the main body can also detect some of the feelings of the clone. Of course, the main body can actively cut off such feelings. However, once the main body cuts off the connection with the spiritual consciousness, the location of the clone cannot be found, so usually, the main body will not do this. End of chapter. Chapter 587 Enemies in the Mist World. Although the matter was over, Lu Chen still didn't get up for a long time and kept teasing Lu Qingkai with words. Facing Lu Qingkai, a beautiful woman and fairy, Lu Chen really wanted to see her feel ashamed and angry, but she was helpless against him. After an unknown amount of time, Lu Qingkai seemed to be aware of Lu Chen's thoughts, so he simply stopped talking and just lay there. Seeing Lu Qingkai acting like a dead pig who is not afraid of boiling water, Lu Chen asked with a smile, "Madam, why don't you speak?" Lu Qingkai still didn't speak. Just turning her head to the side, as long as she didn't speak, there was nothing this guy could do to her. However, just when Lu Qingkai was about to pretend to be dead without saying anything, Lu Chen suddenly moved and Lu Qingkai couldn't help but make a sound in his throat. Lu Qingkai then turned around and looked at Lu Chen. At this time, Lu Chen stared at her with a wicked smile. Lu Qingkai said indifferently, "Now that I am your woman, I can't escape your grasp. You can play with her however you want. What's the point of humiliating me?" Lu Chen said, "What is humiliation? I am cultivating feelings." Lu Qingkai snorted coldly, "Who wants to develop a relationship with a lustful person like you? I said that even if you get my body, you can't get my heart." Lu Chen said, "Okay, I understand." Having said this, Lu Chen leaned down and kissed Lu Qingkai's red lips. Lu Qingkai still wanted to struggle, but Lu Chen soon made him unconscious and unable to resist at all. She had no choice but to let him do whatever he wanted now. After an unknown amount of time, Lu Chen raised his head again, stared at her beautiful face and asked, "How is it? Are you satisfied with my methods?" Lu Qingkai asked loudly, "I am a little confused. Do you, really plan to let that woman Mu Yongzi go?" Lu Qingkai knew that she might not be able to get rid of this man in the future. Mu Yongzi's escape made her feel very uncomfortable. They were all captured by Lu Chen. Why did she escape and become Lu Chen's plaything instead? Hearing Lu Qingkai's question, Lu Chen said, "She will come back." Lu Qingkai said, "Come back? Ha! Why come back? Come back to be your slave girl and be toyed with by you. You think she's a fool?" Lu Chen smiled and asked, "Why do I feel like you want to drag her into the water?" Lu Qingkai did not deny it, but directly admitted, "I formed an alliance with her to deal with you, but in the end I was the only one left to be played with by you. I really can't bear to see her running away like this." Lu Chen said, "Don't worry, she will be back in less than a year." Seeing that Lu Chen was so confident, Lu Qingkai didn't say anything more. She thought to herself that she would definitely watch how that woman was dealt with by this bastard Lu Chen. Lu Chen stood up slowly at this time. After seeing Lu Chen standing up, Lu Qingkai finally breathed a sigh of relief. It is finally over. Lu Chen then said, "Let's stop here this time. There is a long way to go. I will stay in Daqian for a while. We will slowly exchange cultivation experiences in the future." Lu Qingkai suddenly frowned and his face turned a little pale. Although she also realized that Lu Chen would play with her for a long time, but Lu Chen said that he would stay in Daqian for a while, didn't that mean that she would be the only one to serve Lu Chen during this period? Now she really became Lu Chen's forbidden love, a slave girl. Lu Chen didn't care what Lu Qingkai was thinking. He immediately asked someone to bring hot water, and then he and Lu Qingkai took a comfortable hot bath together. After taking a bath, Lu Chen went to the imperial study room to continue handling government affairs. In the next few months, Lu Chen stayed in the Daqian dynasty to handle government affairs. Daqian had just experienced the plague and had many things to do. Although he left most of the things to the officials trained by Yancheng, there were still many things need to be done with the help of his name. During the few months Lu Chen was working in Daqian, Yancheng's rune weapons have also been developed. Lu Chen initially planned to wait until he returned to develop rune weapons, but he felt that this kind of thing could not wait too long. For a long time, the earlier the rune weapons are installed in the army, the better it will be for them. In the past few months, Lu Chen had only two women, Lu Qingkai and Xian Yuan Yunkai, by his side. Xian Yuan Yunkai was in the army and rarely came to the palace. So most of the time, Lu Qingkai serves Lu Chen. As he does things with Lu Chen more and more often, Lu Qingkai has basically accepted Lu Chen. Now if Lu Chen doesn't go to her for a long time, I feel uncomfortable. But she still had a problem in her heart, that is, she didn't see Lu Chen catch Mu Yongzi back. Now she wanted to see Mu Yongzi made crying by Lu Chen. Evening. In the Qianing Palace, the candlelight flickered and two shadows overlapped. At this time, the voice of a female guard came from the door. Your Majesty, there is an urgent message from General Lu. There is something strange happening in the misty world. Hearing this, Lu Chen, who was excited, suddenly came to his senses. Now that the world has been unified, he is most worried and concerned about the situation in the misty world to the west. I didn't expect that something would go wrong in the misty world so soon. If there is no particularly urgent information, Lu Zhenche will not send a letter, and the female guards will not disturb him when he is in the mood. Lu Chen didn't hesitate at all, quickly ended what he was doing, and then stood up. The maid in the palace quickly came over to dress him. Lu Chen glanced at the beautiful fairy lying on the bed and said, I have something to do now. I'll come see you when I'm done. Lu Qingkai's chest kept rising and falling, breathing heavily and ignoring Lu Chen's words. Lu Chen didn't delay too much. After getting dressed, he left Qianing Palace and went straight to his study. When Lu Chen arrived at Daqian's study, Qin Yushan and Liang Zong were already waiting there. When the two commanders saw Lu Chen, they immediately saluted, See your Majesty, long live your Majesty. Lu Chen walked directly to the chair at the desk and sat down, no courtesy, let's get down to business. Liang Zong was originally in Yancheng, but now the commander Liang Zong has come to Daqian in person. This proves that this matter is not trivial and needs to be reported by Liang Zong himself. Liang Zong handed Lu Zhenche's letter to Lu Chen, and then said, Your Majesty, there are cracks in the restriction of the mist world. Many cultivators from the mist world have entered this world. After they entered the original territory of the Black Dragon Kingdom, then they immediately occupied the land of the Black Dragon Kingdom and made a promise to ask all the rulers in this world to surrender to them. Upon hearing this, Lu Chen took the letter from Liang Zong and immediately opened it and started reading. Lu Chen frowned when he saw the contents of the letter. According to Lu Zhenche's information, the cultivators who enter this world are basically people below the Hedao stage, that is, people below the pseudo-celestial being. But even pseudo-celestial beings are considered formidable enemies to the warriors of this world. End of chapter. Chapter 588 Changes in System Rewards. Lu Chen looked at the letter in his hand and fell into deep thought. Only cultivators below pseudo-celestial beings enter this world? So what kind of cultivators are they? Could it be that because of the existence of restrictions, beings of heaven and above cannot enter this world? If this is the case, then these people pose no threat for the time being, and just let Lu Zhenche take action to deal with them. After all, Lu Zhenche is also a veteran heavenly being. He should have no problem dealing with some pseudo-celestial beings in the Hedao stage, right? Just when Lu Chen was thinking this, he discovered that Lu Zhenche mentioned in the letter that those cultivators in the Hedao stage came from a force called Linghu sect. They were good at formations, and even heavenly beings could not stand up to their formations. No benefit. Currently, only Lu Zhenche is in Daiyu, guarding the direction of the Black Dragon Kingdom. This makes Lu Zhenche feel tremendous pressure, so he wants Lu Chen to send a few heavenly beings to Daiyu to deal with the intruders together. Lu Chen thought for a moment. Lu Zhenche and the others found it difficult to deal with Mu Yongzi's Shangqing Tenglong formation, let alone a formation constructed entirely by Hedao stage monks. It seems that the trouble this time is not small. Originally, he planned to go to Fenjian Island to see it first. He even had the boat ready, but now this happened. It seems that I won't be able to go to Toyan Island for a while, so I need to deal with the intruders from the mist world first. Thinking of this, Lu Chen said to Liang Zong, find a way to send Jin Yiwei to inquire about the specific situation of Linghu sect. Liang Zong said, yes, Your Majesty. Lu Chen thought for a moment and actually said, in addition, let Dean Xia and Grand Scholar Xian Yuan go to Dayu to assist General Lu in resisting the invaders. Commander Liang, go and convey my order first. Liang Zong immediately saluted and said, my subordinates, please retire. After Liang Zong left the imperial study, Qin Yushan asked, Your Majesty, the ship to Fenjian Island is ready. Are you going back to Yanqing or to Fenjian Island? Their initial plan was to go to Fenjian Island, but now invaders from the Misty World appeared in the west, and Qin Yushan was not sure whether Lu Chen would go to Fenjian Island. At this time, Lu Chen was also a little entangled. He always felt that there was something he needed on Fenjian Island, and he had long planned to go to Fenjian Island to see it, but he never had the chance. Now even the big ship is ready. If he doesn't go, he doesn't know how long it will take. But in his heart, he is very worried that Lu Zhenchu and the three heavenly beings are no match for the invaders in the Misty World. At this time, Lu Chen sighed, and then said, forget it, let's go back to Yanqing immediately. We can put the matter of going to sea aside for a while. Qin Yushan then saluted and said, yes, I understand. The emperor's trip to sea was not a simple one. He must have made a lot of preparations, such as a big ship, food, clothing and accommodation on board, as well as people to serve the emperor. Now that Lu Chen is gone, the preparation of those things will be temporarily stopped, otherwise it will be a waste of resources. At this time, Lu Chen said, okay, we'll be here tonight. If you have any latest information, especially about the foggy world, let me know immediately. As soon as Lu Chen finished speaking, he used disapparition to disappear. Qin Yushan immediately said, best farewell to your majesty. Lu Chen returned to Jianning Palace in an instant. At this time, Lu Qingqiu had just put on the light blue yun shang. As soon as Lu Chen came back, he threw her directly on the soft couch, and then stripped her with 3 strokes. Lu Qingqiu lay looking at Lu Chen and asked curiously, hiss, the restriction in the mist world is gone. Lu Chen answered while doing his own thing, it's not clear yet, but there are invaders from the mist world coming to this world, but most of them are people at or below the Hedao stage. I guess the ban should be it has not completely disappeared, and now it is estimated that cultivators above heaven and above will not be able to leave the misty world. Lu Qingqiu's interest was aroused again at this time. She took a few deep breaths and said, Hu. What are you going to do? Lu Chen said with a smile, send someone to investigate first. I will return to Yanqing in a few days. If the people I sent can't solve it, then I will solve it myself. Lu Qingqiu asked, hey, don't go, please, Fenjian Island. Lu Chen said, well, I won't go for now. We will wait until the intruders are dealt with first. Lu Qingqiu continued, when can you catch that woman Mu Yongzi back? In the past few months, she had been accompanying Lu Chen almost most of the time. She felt that she had been completely manipulated by Lu Chen, as if she had truly become Lu Chen's slave girl. Now she has completely lost her resistance to Lu Chen. Even if Lu Chen doesn't need to force him, she will take the initiative to be intimate with Lu Chen. To say that this was love, she didn't believe it herself. She felt that she had fallen, that's why she had such an idea. But regardless of whether she had fallen or not, she was living happily now, but she still couldn't let go of Mu Yongzi who had run away. She had been serving Lu Chen for so long, but Mu Yongzi, the woman she wanted to avoid arrest with, was enjoying herself outside. Since she and Mu Yongzi are allies, then the allies will naturally advance and retreat together. She is so happy now, and of course she has to share half of her happiness with her allies. She is a very generous woman, and she has never been happy at all. He never thought about occupying Lu Chen alone. After hearing Lu Qingqiu's words, Lu Chen smiled and said, why do you think about her every day? Don't worry, when she comes back in the future, I will help you teach her a lesson. Okay, let's not talk about this anymore, let's get on with the business. Nowadays, the system no longer has the beep for the experience value of the exercises. After Lu Chen entered the heavenly realm, he has gradually learned to practice on his own and does not need to rely on the system at all. In just a few months, his strength has reached the 4th level of heaven and human. At this rate of improvement, he will probably be able to break through to the creation realm in less than 2 years. It's just a pity that he has been cultivating a relationship with Lu Qingkai almost every day in the past few months, but this beautiful fairy's stomach still doesn't react at all. It seems that the higher the realm, the harder it is to give birth to children. Now it depends on what kind of system rewards the children of his pregnant wives can bring him. Seeing Lu Chen's high interest, Lu Qingkai said nothing more and began to use the Suan Kung Fu to absorb the spiritual power in Lu Chen's body. After an unknown amount of time, a notification sound suddenly sounded in Lu Chen's mind. Ding! Congratulations to the host for getting an heir, and he will be rewarded with the heaven-level spiritual sword, the God-slaying sword. Lu Chen was a little confused when he heard the system prompt. He didn't expect that this time when his wife and concubine gave birth to a child, the reward would not be a certain force, but a spiritual weapon. He thought the system would reward him with a certain force. End of chapter. Chapter 589 Confident Intruder. After Lu Chen came to his senses, he quickly calmed down his emotions. The spiritual weapon was just a spiritual weapon. The heavenly spiritual sword seemed to be pretty good, and it should be very powerful. The earth-level god-killing spear is already so powerful, and the heaven-level god-killing sword should be even more powerful. Maybe the god-killing sword can play a huge role in the next crisis. At the same time, the former capital of the Black Dragon Kingdom, Black Dragon City. Today's Black Dragon City has been occupied by the monks of the Linghu sect. Now everyone in Black Dragon City can only obey the orders of the Linghu sect. Of course, the people of the Black Dragon Kingdom are 100% loyal to Lu Chen. They seem to have surrendered to the Linghu sect. In fact, they are just pretending to surrender. From the upper-level officials to the lower-level people, everyone is in contact with the Linghu sect. They worked hard to find out the information about Linghu sect, and then they brought this information together and passed it to Lu Zhenxia through Jin Yiwei. At this time, the original Black Dragon Kingdom palace was already full of monks from the Linghu sect. Fortunately, Lu Zhenxia's wives, concubines, and children had already gone to Yanqinsh, and the current Black Dragon Kingdom palace was an empty shell. In the Xianzheng Hall, a man wearing a blue robe sat on the dragon chair. He looked at the other Linghu sect disciples in the hall and said with a smile, "I didn't expect that I can experience the feeling of being an emperor now, haha. Haha." Sitting on the dragon chair at this time was Lei Wenda, the disciple of Linghu sect who led the way into this world. After entering this world, he immediately asked people to collect information about this world, and quickly let the disciples of Linghu sect occupy it. The original land of the Black Dragon Kingdom. At this time, a disciple of His Highness said, "Senior brother Lei, why don't you just call yourself the Emperor? Why support those mortals to become the Emperor? I always feel that those mortals have not really taken refuge in the Linghu sect." After hearing what this disciple said, Lei Wenda said, "We are disciples of the immortal sect. To become an immortal is what we pursue. What good is it to be an emperor? And even if I don't become the emperor of the Black Dragon Kingdom will listen to me in the future. I ask him to go east, but he won't dare to go west." At this time, a disciple said, "Senior brother Lei, now that we have collected almost all the intelligence on Tianchen continent, what should we do next?" Riven smiled and said, "This is not simple yet. Let's build some strength first and let the world know about the existence of our Linghu sect." At this time, another disciple of the Linghu sect in the hall said, "Senior brother Lei, according to the information we have gathered, there are heavenly beings in this world, and that Emperor Xia seems to be very difficult to deal with. When Emperor Xia knows about our existence, I'm afraid he will immediately send heavenly beings to the Black Dragon Kingdom. Hearing this, Lei Wenda said nonchalantly, even if there are heavenly beings in this world lacks spiritual energy. It is hard to say whether those heavenly beings can exert their full strength. And even if they have the strength of the peak of heavenly beings, they can only be suppressed in front of our Linghu sect's formation. Is it possible that you were scared because of a few heavenly beings? After hearing Lei Wenda's words, the disciples of the Linghu sect thought for a while, and it seemed to make sense. Their disciples of the Linghu sect had just come from the misty world. Although the spiritual energy in this world was very lacking, they were still in full condition now. The heavenly beings in this world are just lingering. If those heavenly beings really dare to come, even if they don't use formations, they might be able to defeat those heavenly beings with their combined strength. At this time, the disciples of Linghu sect basically did not take Lu Chen and Lu Chen's heavenly beings seriously, and they did have the capital. In the misty world, the formation formed by the disciples of the Linghu sect in the Hedao stage was able to kill the monks in the heavenly realm. What's more, it is difficult for the heavenly beings in this world to absorb enough spiritual energy and cannot exert their strength. Then their spiritual energy, the Fox clan is still afraid of what those heavenly beings will do. Lei Wenda stood up from the dragon chair at this time and said, "We must rule this world before the restriction disappears. Only in this way can our Linghu sect be able to gain more territory. When the forces in the mist world come, in this world, if you want land, you have to give us Linghu sect something in exchange. If we do it, then we will be the great contributors to the Linghu sect." Lei Wenda's words instantly excited the Linghu sect disciples in the hall. They were just the lowest level of the Linghu sect. If they really made such a big contribution, their future treatment might be different. Received a substantial improvement. The disciples of the Linghu sect were particularly excited when they thought about the rewards that the Linghu sect might give them. After all the disciples were excited, Lei Wenda said, "I have decided to send some people to Yancheng to investigate the situation. Whoever among you is willing to take the lead can recommend yourself." Hearing this, a Linghu sect disciple stood up without hesitation, "Senior brother Lei, let me go." Lei Wenda glanced at the disciples who stood up, and then said, "Okay, since junior brother Meng is so brave, then this opportunity to make meritorious deeds will be given to you. Later, you can choose a few disciples in the Hedao stage to join you. Let's go to Yancheng together. Your mission on this trip is very simple. It is to find a way to win over those heavenly beings. If they are unwilling, then just get rid of them directly." Meng Tian said, "Yes, senior brother Lei, junior brother promises to complete the mission." At this time, Lei Wenda suddenly thought of something, and then the corners of his mouth slightly raised. "I heard that Emperor Xia was fond of beauty, and he kept many beauties in the harem. Junior brother Meng, when you go to Yancheng this time, remember to take care of the beauty for your senior brother. After a few come back, I would like to see if it is true that as the folk rumors say, Emperor Xia's wives and concubines are all as beautiful as gods." Hearing this, Meng Tian smiled and said, "Senior brother, don't worry. After junior brother enters Yancheng, the first thing he will do is enter the palace and capture some beauties for you." Lei Wenda said, "Hey, business matters are more important. Let's talk to those heavenly beings first and deal with the heavenly beings' affairs first." Meng Tian smiled and said, "Junior brother understands." Reven then glanced at the people in the hall again. "Okay, that's it for today." As soon as he finished speaking, Lei Wenda left the hall directly. Half a month later, Lu Chen returned to Yancheng. Just like before when he came back, he visited every room of his wives and concubines in the rain and dew for the next few days. After collecting almost all the information about Linghu sect, Lu Chen immediately summoned the great court meeting. Yancheng, Yizheng Hall. Lu Chen sat on the dragon chair and said, "Today's meeting will be hosted by me personally." At this time, officials basically didn't know what was about to happen in this world. Only Jin Yiwei and a few important officials knew about the Linghu sect. People are always most afraid of the unknown, So Lu Chen specially asked Jin Yiwei to find out the situation of Linghu sect, and then held a meeting to discuss how to deal with Linghu sect and what they might face next. In the future of Daxia, how should it develop? End of chapter. Chapter 590. Why do I hear someone talking about me? When the Yizheng hall became quiet, Lu Chen glanced at the entire hall again, and then he said, "Today's meeting is mainly to discuss how to deal with the Mist World invaders, and how Daxia should face the Mist World crisis in the future." Issue. After hearing Lu Chen's words, the ministers in the hall looked at me and I looked at you, but they didn't seem to understand what Lu Chen was saying at all. There are many ministers who don't know anything about the Mist World. They have never even heard of the term Mist World. They only know that there is an area shrouded in fog in the west. Lu Chen continued, "Maybe most of you don't know what the Mist World is." Having said this, Lu Chen said to the Jin Yiwei soldiers on the side, "Tell all my dear friends about the situation in the foggy world." Upon hearing this, the Jin Yiwei soldier immediately said, "Yes, Your Majesty. In the far west of this continent, there is a place shrouded in fog. Inside the fog, there is another world. Because of the restriction, it is difficult for people from the foggy world to enter our world. Now the restrictions in the Mist World are about to disappear, and cultivators from the Mist World will also enter our world. Now the enemies of the Mist World have sent some invaders to our world, and they have now occupied the land where the Black Dragon Kingdom once was. That means supporting an emperor and overthrowing the entire Great Xia." After hearing the words of the Jin Yiwei soldiers, the entire political hall instantly became a mess. Originally, most officials thought that after the destruction of the Dacian dynasty, Daxia would usher in thousands of years of peace. After all, their emperor was already a god at such a young age and could live for 1,000 years no matter what. With the Emperor Lu Chen here, and without foreign enemies, it was not too difficult to maintain the stability of Daxia for thousands of years, but now foreign enemies appeared. Less than a year after Dacian was destroyed, foreign enemies arrived. At this time, Lu Chen glanced at the commotion of officials in the hall, and Lu Chen was not surprised at all by their reactions. Peace was finally ushering in, but a powerful enemy suddenly appeared. It was normal for them to react like this. Lu Chen said at this time, "The enemies in the Mist World are very powerful. For them, heavenly beings are just the beginning of cultivators. Each force in the Mist World has hundreds, thousands, or thousands of heavenly beings." As soon as these words came out, the officials in the hall took a breath of cold air. There were only a few heavenly beings in their world, but one force in the Mist World had thousands of heavenly beings. So how could they belong to those forces in the Mist World? Opponent? Is it possible that Daxia is about to be destroyed? For a moment, the atmosphere in the entire hall seemed extremely heavy. No one continued to speak, and everyone was quietly listening to what Lu Chen was going to say next. Lu Chen said calmly at this time, "Although the enemies in the Mist World are very powerful, we are not without hope. We already have weapons that can deal with heavenly beings." As soon as these words came out, they did not cheer up the officials in the hall. Of course they knew that Lu Chen had a weapon to deal with the gods, and it was not the god-killing gun. But only one emperor, Lu Chen, had such a weapon. As an emperor, Lu Chen couldn't possibly go to the front-line battlefield every day. The most important thing is that Lu Chen is alone. Even if Lu Chen's weapons can deal with those heavenly beings in the Mist World, he can't deal with everyone. Seeing that the officials seemed very pessimistic, Lu Chen did not tell anything about the rune weapons. It was not the time yet, and there was no need to tell him now. Lu Chen continued at this time, "Now that the enemies of the Mist World have invaded, the focus of the next work will turn to how to resist the invaders, and the focus of future work will also shift." At this time, an official stood up and said, "Your Majesty, I wonder if Your Majesty plans to tell the people about the invasion of the enemies in the Mist World." Hearing this question, the minister's eyes fell on Lu Chen, waiting for Lu Chen's answer. This issue is very important. If this news is told to the people now, it is likely to cause panic among the people, causing the world to lose order in advance. And this will also allow those enemies who have been lurking in the dark to see opportunities. Those enemies will definitely find ways to contact the forces in the foggy world, and then collude with those forces to harm Daxia. Lu Chen thought for a moment, and then said, I have no plans to tell the people this news for the time being. Although the enemies in the mist world are very strong, as long as you are prepared, those enemies are not invincible. I already have a way to deal with them. There is no need for you to worry too much. All you need to do is to do your best. That's what happened. Okay, let's discuss the change of work focus. After the court meeting, Lu Chen suddenly felt as if his body had been hollowed out. He felt very tired every time he presided over the court meeting. As expected, it was easier to leave the matter to others to handle. But there is no other way. Rights and obligations are equal. He is the emperor now. After enjoying the treatment of the emperor, he must fulfill the obligations of the emperor. Lu Chen just wants the Prince Lu Chongfeng to grow up quickly so that he can help him share the burden. Stressed out. After the court meeting, Lu Chen walked directly towards Wu Yunwan's bedroom. Since returning to Yancheng, Lu Chen has not been to Wu Yunwan once. It seems that he has neglected Wu Yunwan. It is not that he has really neglected Wu Yunwan, but he feels guilty. Wu Ming's rebellion had something to do with him. Ever since the incident with the Wu family, he had heard from Jin Yiwei that Wu Yunwan seemed to be in a low mood. Now Wu Yunwan's belly is very big, and it seems that she will give birth soon. I don't know if it is affected by the pregnancy, but Wu Yunwan's mood is even lower these days. After learning that Lu Chen was back, Wu Yunwan not only did not feel happy, she became even more depressed. Originally, Li Qingguo spoke ill of Lu Chen to Wu Yunwan every day, trying to drive a wedge between Lu Chen and Wu Yunwan, so that she could take Wu Yunwan away. However, seeing Wu Yunwan becoming more and more depressed day by day, Li Qingguo refused. Speak ill of Lu Chen. Not only did she not speak ill of Lu Chen, she also often comforted Wu Yunwan and told her how good Lu Chen was. Although he felt resentful towards Lu Chen, Li Qingguo could only say good things about Lu Chen for the sake of Wu Yunwan. At this moment, the room was filled with cigarette smoke. Wu Yunwan was lying on the soft couch, turning her head to look at the door, looking helpless. Seeing Wu Yunwan like this, Li Qingguo cursed Lu Chen over and over in his heart. Didn't this guy know what he had done? As a result, the first thing he did after coming back was not to comfort Wu Yunwan, but to go to other wives and concubines. Li Qingguo was sitting on the edge of the soft couch, holding Wu Yunwan's hand and saying, Yunwan, don't be sad. Lu Chen may be busy recently. Maybe he will come to your place tonight. Wu Yunwan said nothing, still just looking at the door. Seeing Wu Yunwan's appearance, Li Qingguo sighed, why hasn't that bastard come yet? If he doesn't come, he will go to the imperial study to catch him himself. Just when Li Qingguo was thinking this, the door of Wu Yunwan's palace slowly opened, and a familiar voice came. Why did I hear someone talking about me? End of chapter. Subscribe to Chinese Novel Audio Wave. Chapter 591 Wu Yunwan resolves her knot. After hearing Lu Chen's voice, Li Qingguo's aura couldn't help but rise instantly. This heartless man finally knew that he was coming, and Li Qingguo now wanted to chase Lu Chen with his sword and chop him down. But she quickly endured it. Then she forced a smile and said, Yunwan, look at what I'm saying. Isn't Lu Chen here? The moment she saw Lu Chen, a light seemed to appear in Wu Yunwan's eyes. Seeing Wu Yunwan lying on the soft couch with messy hair, Lu Chen suddenly felt that he had gone too far. Even if he really wanted to do this, he should have told Wu Yunwan in advance. She set a trap for the Wu family without even saying hello. I'm afraid this may seem to Wu Yunwan that she doesn't trust her, or that she has some objections to her. Lu Chen then came to Wu Yunwan's bed with a smile on his face. When Wu Yunwan was about to get up, Lu Chen quickly supported her and said, "Junwan, just lie down." Wu Yunwan said calmly at this time, "I am pregnant and cannot serve your majesty. Please don't be angry." Lu Chen smiled and said, "Yunwan, what are you talking about? Even if I am a beast, I can't possibly do anything to you at this time." Li Qingguo thought of something at this time, and then said, "Lu Chen, Yunwan, I have something else to do, so I will go back first. You can chat slowly." Having said this, Li Qingguo looked at Lu Chen again and said, "Lu Chen, you haven't been back for so long. You should have a lot to say to Yunwan." Hearing this, Lu Chen smiled, wondering why he didn't hear what Li Qingguo meant. Li Qingguo then turned and left. After Li Qingguo left, Lu Chen hugged Wu Yunwan's body, kissed Wu Yunwan's forehead and said, "Junwan, I find you are becoming more and more attractive." Wu Yunwan ignored Lu Chen's words and said, "Your Majesty, you should tell me something, right?" Wu Yunwan also noticed that Lu Chen seemed to be very uncomfortable now. Obviously, Lu Chen was like this because of the Wu family's affairs. Lu Chen said directly, "Yunwan, I suddenly remembered that before leaving Yancheng, I gave the Jin Yiwei in order to test whether the Wu family still had the intention to rebel. Unexpectedly, Wu Ming actually rebelled. I heard that you have been in a very low mood because of this incident. Oh, it's my fault. I shouldn't have let people test them. I should have understood this earlier. Human nature cannot stand the test." Lu Chen looked at Wu Yunwan's beautiful eyes at this time and continued, "Yunwan, please don't be angry with me, okay?" Hearing Lu Chen's words, Wu Yunwan showed a smile on her face, and then said, "I have never been angry with His Majesty. I just feel that Your Majesty may not trust me, which makes me feel a little uncomfortable. I know that His Majesty has always been worried about the Wu family. He thinks that they are likely to rebel in the future, so it is better to drive them out and get rid of them directly. Even if His Majesty really plans to take action against the Wu family, I won't say anything." After hearing Wu Yunwan's words, Lu Chen thought that it was exactly what he thought. Wu Yunwan was indeed sad because he did not tell her about the Wu family in advance. Lu Chen then said, "This is indeed a lack of consideration on my part. I will not do this again in the future." Wu Yunwan looked at Lu Chen's handsome, angular face, and then said, "Your Majesty, if you can come to me and tell me this, I will feel relieved." Although she felt a little sad at first, Lu Chen was able to take the initiative to come to her and tell her this, and as the king of a country, he also apologized to her, which was enough to show how much Lu Chen loved her. If Lu Chen had no feelings for her and thought she was just a container and a plaything, then there would be no need to tell her this, and there would be no need to apologize to her. Lu Chen raised his hand, gently stroked Wu Yunwan's beautiful face, and said with a smile, "You are my wife. Naturally, I don't want to see you depressed all the time." Having said this, Lu Chen leaned forward gently and kissed Wu Yunwan's red lips. Wu Yunwan did not expect that Lu Chen would kiss her at this time, but she did not resist and worked hard to cooperate with Lu Chen. Wu Yunwan is pregnant now, and Lu Chen is just kissing her, so it is impossible to do anything too much to her. But even a kiss can deepen the relationship between two people. Lu Chen's kiss made Wu Yunwan's depression that had been accumulated in her heart for several months instantly dissipate. At this moment, Li Qingguo, who was outside the palace, felt a little relieved after sensing what happened inside. His good sister finally returned to normal. But soon Li Qingguo became more resentful towards Lu Chen. It was this guy, otherwise how could the two sisters have fallen into this situation? After a moment, Li Qingguo sighed softly. "Forget it, everything is a foregone conclusion. Wu Yunwan will give birth to Lu Chen's child soon, and this will continue from now on. Although this bastard Lu Chen is a little too troubled, he is still okay in all aspects. I hope this guy will not make Wu Yunwan sad again in the future. Just when Li Qingguo was thinking this, Wu Yunwan suddenly said, "Qingguo, come in." Hearing this, Li Qingguo was stunned. However, she still opened the door and entered the palace again. Li Qingguo said in confusion, "Yunwan, what's wrong?" Wu Yunwan smiled and said, "Qingguo, I am pregnant and cannot take care of Lu Chen. You will take care of him tonight." This. Just as Li Qingguo was about to say something, Lu Chen said to Wu Yunwan, "Yunwan, what do you mean? In your eyes, I am the kind of person who must be cared for by a woman before he can sleep at night." Wu Yunwan smiled and said, "You are pretending. In my bedroom, you often tormented Qingguo." After the knot in Wu Yunwan's heart was resolved, she became much more cheerful. She didn't care about Lu Chen and Li Qingguo's affairs at all. On the contrary, she wanted to take advantage of this opportunity to let Li Qingguo ease his lovesickness. Lu Chen went to all the other women, but he didn't come to them. He finally came today, so let Lu Chen favor Li Qingguo. Lu Chen was a little embarrassed when Wu Yunwan said this. He came to Wu Yunwan mainly to comfort Wu Yunwan, but Wu Yunwan asked him to do that with another woman. How can this be done? At this time, Wu Yunwan continued, "If your majesty is not willing, then your majesty can go to the other sister's palace tonight." Lu Chen smiled. He also saw what Wu Yunwan meant, and then said, "Okay, okay, I agree." Seeing that Lu Chen actually agreed, the beautiful woman Li Qingguo was stunned. What does it mean? Before she even spoke, the two of them decided their fate tonight? Before Li Qingguo could react, her body suddenly lost control, and her plump and delicate body flew directly into Lu Chen's arms. Lu Chen asked Li Qingguo to sit on his lap and whispered in her ear, "Qingguo, I am now a heavenly being. Do you want to try the strength of a heavenly being?" End of chapter. Chapter 592. I have a heaven-level skill here. Li Qingguo has always been a woman who refuses to admit defeat. Even when she was defeated by Lu Chen in Daiyu's palace, she was still trying to find a way to defeat Lu Chen and suppress him. But Li Qingguo never succeeded. At that time, she was already a heavenly being, while Lu Chen was just a pseudo-celestial being. Now that Lu Chen has become a celestial being, and her strength has not increased much, how can she be Lu Chen's opponent? Li Qingguo was a little scared when she thought that Lu Chen was already a celestial being, but for the sake of Wu Yunwan, Li Qingguo finally lay down next to Wu Yunwan. It turned out that Lu Chen was really a little bit "you're all welcome." Wu Yunwan was obviously right next to her, but he had no scruples at all and just tormented her when he caught her. Li Qingguo didn't want to show her weak side in front of Wu Yunwan. She also tried to suppress Lu Chen in turn, but she failed in the end. After an unknown amount of time, Lu Chen suddenly thought of something, so he slightly lowered his intensity and said to Li Qingqing and Wu Yunwan, "I have a heaven-level technique here that is very suitable for you to practice." Hearing this, the two women were stunned for a moment. Heaven-level skills? Real or fake? Does Lu Chen have heaven-level skills? Although they have never seen the heaven-level exercises, they know the importance of the heaven-level exercises. Even in the mystic immortal sect, there is only one earth-level exercise. Lu Chen then passed on the heaven-level skills to the two women. As a ball of blue light entered the foreheads of the two women, the content of Suan's skills became familiar to them. After seeing the content of Suan Kung Fu, Li Qingguo had a strange look on her face. Why did she feel that Suan Kung Fu was not a serious technique? Although Suan Kung Fu, unlike Dragon and Phoenix Yin and Yang Kung Fu, requires both men and women to practice, she always feels that this technique also requires men. Lu Chen lowered his head slightly and looked at Li Qingguo, who was lying on the bed, and said with a smile, "Qingguo, you can try the Suan Kung Fu now to see if this technique is suitable for you." Hearing Lu Chen's words and seeing Lu Chen's mean smile, Li Qingguo knew that there was something wrong with this technique. No wonder this guy was so kind in teaching the heaven-level skills to them. It turned out he had ulterior motives. However, Li Qingguo didn't think much about it. She closed her eyes and started using the Suan Kung Fu. The next moment, spiritual power flowed rapidly through her body. Li Qingguo suddenly understood something. She immediately opened her eyes and saw Lu Chen's expression of enjoyment. Seeing this scene, Li Qingguo curled her lips. It was exactly what she thought. She knew that this guy had no good intentions. It turned out that their practice of Suan Gong could also bring benefits to this guy. But having said that, Suan Gong was indeed a heaven-level skill. She felt that the spiritual energy around her was pouring into her body at a rapid speed, and the spiritual sea in her body was growing at a speed visible to the naked eye. At this rate of growth, it won't be long before her strength reaches the second level of heaven and human. It's just a pity that the spiritual energy in this world is too rare. If she were in the mist world and had a heaven-level skill, it might not take a year for her to break through to the realm of creation. Seeing Li Qingguo's beautiful eyes staring at him, Lu Chen asked with a smile, "Qingguo, how are you? Is this heaven-level technique suitable for you?" Li Qingguo's cheeks were flushed and her beautiful eyes were misty. She snorted coldly and said, "I know you have no good intentions." Despite what she said, Li Qingguo did not stop practicing the Suan Kung Fu, and the Suan Kung Fu was still running in her body. At this time, Wu Yunwan on the side asked, "Your Majesty, is there anything unusual in the misty world?" Wu Yunwan is also a person with real power, so she is also aware of the changes in the misty world. Lu Chen was stunned for a moment when he heard Wu Yunwan take the initiative to mention this issue. He actually wanted to ask Wu Yunwan what the status of their former sect was in the foggy world. But when he thought that he was here to comfort Wu Yunwan tonight, if the matter of the mystic immortal sect was mentioned at this time, Wu Yunwan would think that he came to comfort her for the mystic immortal sect. Wouldn't she be even more embarrassed? Sad, so he simply said nothing. In the end, Wu Yunwan took the initiative to ask. Lu Chen then said, "Well, although the restrictions in the mist world have not disappeared, forces from the mist world have entered our world and have occupied the original territory of the Black Dragon Kingdom, intending to support an emperor and rebuild the Black Dragon Kingdom." Hearing this, Li Qingguo asked, "Then, what is your Majesty going to do?" Lu Chen said, "While doing things, I have arranged for 3 heavenly beings to go to Dayu. Currently, the strongest people from the mist world are only cultivators in the Hedao stage. I hope Lu Zhenchu and the others can deal with those people." Wu Yunwan said worriedly, "Your Majesty, although the monks who came here are only of the strength of the Hedao stage, the spiritual energy of the mist world is abundant, and the strength of those cultivators of the Hedao stage is also not weak, and the general forces have what they are good at. Formation, the 3 heavenly beings may not be their opponents." Lu Chen said, "I also know that I originally planned to go to Fenjian Island. After hearing about this incident, I immediately returned to Yanchinj. If Lu Zhenchu and the others are not the opponents of the invaders, then I will go there myself take action." Speaking of this, Lu Chen asked, "By the way, you have entered the mist world before, so do you know the power of the Linghu sect?" When they heard the words Linghu sect, the 2 women were stunned for a moment. It was obvious that they had heard of this force. Wu Yunwan said, "I have heard that the Linghu sect can be regarded as a medium force in the mist world, and when Qingguo and I were in the mist world, we were chased by Linghu sect disciples." Lu Chen said with a smile, "So, these guys are still my old enemies? They dare to touch my 2 wives, then I will treat them well. Don't worry, ladies, I will definitely help you get revenge." Hearing this, the 2 beautiful women suddenly felt warm in their hearts. Although they also knew that this guy was just talking sweet words, they would just accept it now. At this time, Li Qingguo said, "Since the cultivators in the mist world have, Come to this world, does that mean that the restriction is about to disappear? The Linghu sect is not the only force in the mist world. The mist world is a world with unstable space and a very large area. Li Qingqing and Wu Yunhuan don't know exactly how big it is. Anyway, they have not visited the mist world in so many years since they went there. There are also many forces in the mist world, and people from other worlds are constantly being sent to the mist world. Once the restriction disappears, the forces from the mist world will definitely come to this world. Although the laws of this world are incomplete, it is safe. In a place like the foggy world where space is unstable, even if you don't do anything, you may be torn apart by space one day if you stay in one place. Hearing Li Qingro's reminder, a smile appeared on Lu Chen's face. He knew what Li Qingro wanted to say. End of chapter. Chapter 593 I Can Spare Your Master's Life. Once the restrictions in the mist world disappear, Tianchen continent will be a piece of meat on the chopping block. At that time, all the forces in the mist world will come in to compete for territory, and Daxia, which was finally unified, will be divided again. Li Qingro reminded Lu Chen that there are many forces in the misty world, just to tell Lu Chen that Daxia is now in danger and is on the eve of a precarious turmoil. Of course Lu Chen knew the situation in Daxia, but he still had confidence in himself. At this time, Lu Chen asked, Yunhuan, where does your mystic immortal sect rank among the forces in the mist world? Wu Yunhuan replied, as far as we know, the mystic immortal sect should be the strongest in the entire mist world. Li Qingro said, if you want to fight against the forces in the mist world, joining the mysterious immortal sect is the best choice for you. Although I don't know what kind of force is behind you, but for now, before the force behind you can't intervene in the affairs of this world, you can only fight against other forces in the mist world by joining the mysterious immortal sect. Li Qing and Wu Yunhuan have no good impressions of the mystic immortal sect. Even though they were once disciples of the mystic immortal sect, in this situation, once the restrictions in the mist world disappear and Lu Chen does not have the support of a huge force behind him, it will be very difficult for him to do so. Xia will soon be divided up. Even if Lu Chen joins the immortal sect, Daxia will still be divided up, but because of the intimidation of the immortal sect, those forces do not dare to go too far, and Daxia will be able to leave more land by then. And Lu Chen, as the spokesperson of the mystic immortal sect, will not be in any danger to his life. Hearing Li Qingro's words, Lu Chen smiled faintly. Qingro, are you worried about me? Li Qingro snorted coldly, I just don't want to see Yunhuan's child be born without a father. Having said this, Li Qingro continued, I and Qingro's master have some status in the mystic immortal sect. If you are willing to join the mystic immortal sect, we can go to our master for help. However, if you think you have the strength to fight against the entire foggy world, then just pretend that I didn't say anything. Why couldn't Li Qingro see Lu Chen's thoughts? Lu Chen had obviously never thought of joining any force, and Li Qingro just said it casually to provide Lu Chen with a possible choice. As for how Lu Chen chooses, that is Lu Chen's own business. Anyway, even if Daxia is really divided up by those forces, she and Wu Yunhuan can find their former master for help. Although they can't save Daxia, there is still no problem in saving their lives and Lu Chen's. Lu Chen leaned down and said in Li Qingro's ear, Qingro, you are really worried about me. It seems that you are becoming more and more concerned about my husband. Li Qingro ignored Lu Chen's words. She was talking about business with this guy. He was laughing and joking and didn't care at all. If you don't care, forget it, just pretend she didn't say anything. At this moment, Lu Chen said, it is impossible for me to seek refuge in the mystic immortal sect. I have no habit of relying on others. Once Daxia surrendered to the mystic immortal sect, it lost its independence. From now on, everything in Daxia will be decided by the mystic immortal sect. At that time, I was just a puppet of the mystic immortal sect and a dog of the mystic immortal sect. Lu Chen knew very well that the method Li Qingguo mentioned was indeed very good. After taking refuge in the mystic immortal sect, he would be able to avoid a lot of troubles. From now on, those forces would compete for territory with the mystic immortal sect. He and his wives and concubines would live a leisurely life together. Now that the task of unifying the world has been completed, he has successfully broken through to the realm of heaven and humanity. If he really wants to be an irresponsible emperor, it is not impossible. As long as he is cruel, everything in this world will have nothing to do with him. But Lu Chen doesn't have the habit of being a dog to others, and he still has his own power in the foggy world. No one can say that he has any chance of winning. The most important ones are Wu Junwan, Xue Linglong, and Bai Qingqing. There are still his children in his belly. After these 3 children are born, the system may have even richer rewards. He is a systematic person. If he is afraid of what these natives will do, he will just do it. Being a dog is not a good thing. The wives and concubines in his harem are all as beautiful as flowers. If he really joins the mystic sect, he will not believe that the cultivators of the mystic sect have no interest in his wives. If those cultivators want him to hand over his wives and concubines for their entertainment, he is a puppet emperor, should he hand them over or not? As a man, you definitely can't stand this, so your own strength is the most important. Only when you are strong can you protect the people around you. It's better not to think about finding any backer, you are your own backer. Hearing Lu Chen's words, Li Qingqing and Wu Yunwan didn't feel surprised at all. They already knew what kind of person Lu Chen was. However, if this happens, the war between Daxia and the Mist World will inevitably break out, and the pressure on Lu Chen will become extremely huge. At this time, Li Qingguo looked at the moving figure in front of her, and she suddenly felt a strange feeling in her heart. She was once an empress, so she knew very well the pressure she bore as an emperor when facing a powerful enemy. But just when Li Qingqing and Lu Chen felt the same way, Lu Chen suddenly said, "By the way, what kind of person is your master?" In the future, the mystic immortal sect will invade this world, and Daxia and the mystic immortal sect will have a battle sooner or later. When that time comes, I can spare your master's life. Hearing this, Li Qingguo laughed. This guy now thinks that the mystic immortal sect will definitely be defeated. He is indeed arrogant. Wu Yunwan replied from the side, "Our master has probably broken through to the yin and yang realm now. She has a beautiful appearance and excellent temperament. She is a fairy admired by countless sect disciples." Li Qingguo took a deep breath. "Hey! Yunwan, why are you talking to this lustful person? Hey! What if our master is targeted by him?" Hearing Li Qingguo's words, Lu Chen smiled and said, "If you hadn't said this, I might not be interested in your master yet, but now I really want to know how beautiful your master is." Li Qingguo said, "Just, hey, with your strength in the heavenly realm, even if you meet our master, you can't be her opponent." Lu Chen said nonchalantly, "It's just a yin-yang realm." Seeing Lu Chen talking so shamelessly, the 2 women suddenly had a bad feeling in their hearts. Could this guy really be plotting against their master? He doesn't take the yin and yang realm seriously. Is it possible that the forces behind him can actually interfere in the affairs of this world? The 2 girls had long believed that Lu Chen was the young master of a certain family who cultivated immortals. There was a huge force behind him. Lu Chen just came to this world to experience. What they were most worried about was that the force behind Lu Chen could not take action in time, so just now Li Qingguo asked Lu Chen to join the mystic immortal sect. If the forces behind Lu Chen could take action, there would indeed be no need to seek refuge in the mystic immortal sect. Seeing that Lu Chen didn't take the mystic immortal sect seriously, the 2 women thought that the forces behind Lu Chen would help him. At this time, an idea suddenly came to the minds of the 2 women. If the forces behind Lu Chen really took action, wouldn't their master? Is there danger? When their master falls into the hands of this bad guy, might he end up like them? End of chapter. Chapter 594 Su Hanyan. A world of mist. In a certain bamboo house, filled with fragrance, a beautiful woman in a purple dress was meditating. The beautiful woman has a plump figure and a graceful figure. She has flesh where there should be flesh and skinny where there should be. Her whole body exudes the temperament of a mature woman. At this time, a female disciple's voice sounded outside. Elder Su, the sect leader has important matters to discuss. Su Hanyan said calmly, I understand. Then Su Hanyan opened her beautiful eyes, slowly stood up, and flew towards the main peak of the enchanted immortal sect. After a while, Su Hanyan arrived at the meeting hall of the mystic immortal sect. At this time, all the elders of the mystic immortal sect had arrived. After seeing Su Hanyan arrive, the man sitting in the main seat in the middle of the hall said, according to the news I have received, the Linghu sect has found a way to go to Tianchen continent, and has sent people to Tianchen continent. Hearing this, there was a lot of discussion in the hall. The restriction has not disappeared yet, and they actually sent people to enter the Tianchen continent. When the restriction disappears, and we enter the Tianchen continent again, wouldn't it mean that the entire Tianchen continent already belongs to the Linghu sect? No, we must also find a way to send disciples into Tianchen continent and seize the territory in advance. It's strange, the restrictions are still there, how do they send people to Tianchen continent? After the elders in the hall discussed for a while, Han Yuankai, the leader of the immortal sect, said, from the information I have received, the people from Linghu sect should have found a space crack and went through that space crack. Tianchen continent. Although it is possible to go to Tianchen continent through the cracks, due to the existence of restrictions, they can only send some disciples in the Hedao stage there. After hearing this, an elder said, although we can only send Hedao disciples there, the spiritual energy of Tianchen continent itself is very thin. I am afraid that there is not even a single celestial being in the entire Tianchen continent. I am afraid that the disciples of Linghu sect will not be able to use it if they enter Tianchen continent. In a few months, you can rule the entire continent. At this time, Han Yuankai's eyes fell on Su Hanyan, junior sister, you have been to Tianchen continent before. Please tell me about the situation you encountered in Tianchen continent. Su Hanyan said, although the spiritual energy in Tianchen continent is thin, there are still a few heavenly beings. However, because the spiritual energy is relatively rare, it is difficult for the heavenly beings in Tianchen continent to exert their full strength. But these heavenly beings should be able to delay the Linghu sect's occupation of the entire continent. At this time, a female elder said, even if there really are heavenly beings in Tianchen continent, as the great elder said, because the existence of spiritual energy cannot exert full strength, after those disciples of the Linghu sect in the Hedao stage enter Tianchen continent will those heavenly beings are no match for those disciples in the Hedao stage. And it will take at least 20 years for the ban to disappear. When the ban disappears in 20 years, when we enter Tianchen continent, I am afraid that the entire Tianchen continent belongs to the Linghu sect. So I suggest attacking Linghu sect directly and asking Linghu sect to hand over the location of the space crack. We also send sect disciples into Tianchen continent in advance. Only in this way can we seize a large amount of land. As soon as the female elder finished speaking, all the elders in the hall expressed their agreement. I also agree with what Elder Yan said. We cannot wait until Tianchen continent is occupied by others before entering. If we wait until other forces seize the opportunity, it will be even more difficult for us to seize territory from those forces in the future. Sect Master, let's attack the Linghu sect now and let the Linghu sect hand over the location of the space crack. Han Yuankai was silent for a moment, and then said, Elders, please go back and prepare for the attack on Linghu Gate in 2 days. After hearing Han Yuankai's words, the elders immediately stood up, bowed their hands towards Han Yuankai and said, Yes, Sect Master. Immediately, everyone left the meeting hall. Su Hanyan did not stay too long. She turned and left. Just when she was about to walk out of the door, Han Yuankai suddenly said, "Junior sister, please wait a moment." Hearing this, Su Hanyan stopped. After the other elders left the hall, Han Yuankai walked up behind Su Hanyan and asked, "Junior sister, I remember that you had 2 disciples from Tianchen continent before." Su Hanyan turned around and asked calmly, "Yes, but after the restriction is loosened later, I will send the 2 of them back to Tianchen continent." Senior brother asked them what they were doing. Han Yuankai said, "The 2 of them are very talented, and they are aborigines of Tianchen continent. For my plan, I want my junior sister to give them to me." Hearing this, Su Hanyan raised her beautiful eyes, and her face instantly became extremely cold. "Senior brother, these 2 are my direct disciples and members of the mystic immortal sect. Is this how you treat the disciples of this sect?" Han Yuankai said, "Junior sister, a woman's kindness will not do us any good. Have you forgotten how we were squeezed into this world in the first place? What's more, those 2 women are just mortals in the lower world. Why do you value them so much?" Su Hanyan immediately said, "If senior brother wants someone from Tianchen continent to do something, he can go directly to other women in Tianchen continent. Senior brother, it is better not to have any ideas about my disciples. I will never agree." As soon as she finished speaking, Su Hanyan turned and left. It was obvious that she was really angry. Han Yuankai looked at Su Hanyan's leaving back without any displeasure on his face. Even if Su Hanyan disagreed, he would not give up. He just informed Su Hanyan, but did not ask for her opinion. Once the restriction was lifted, he immediately sent someone secretly to capture the woman and use it as his furnace. After Su Hanyan returned to her mountain peak, her expression was extremely serious. She knew her senior brother's character very well. Whatever he said, he would definitely do it. He had obviously just told herself just now, and it was unlikely that he would do it because of his words. Just don't do it. She had to find a way to notify her 2 disciples and let them find a place to hide. Thinking of this, Su Hanyan looked at the mist in the distance, looking at the direction connecting Tianchen continent and the mist world, and couldn't help but think in her heart, she didn't know how her disciples were doing now, and whether their strength had improved. She actually regretted sending the 2 of them away at the beginning, and she accepted them as her 2 direct disciples. But after listening to her senior brother's words today, she was actually a little glad that she had sent her 2 disciples back. Otherwise, her senior brother might have taken action against her 2 disciples. Half a month passed in the blink of an eye. For the past half month, Lu Chen has been teaching his wives and concubines how to practice the Suan Kung Fu. Now all his wives and concubines have learned this technique, and the evil girl has started to practice it. The teaching during this period of time almost made Lu Chen, the Iron Man, a little unbearable. I have to say that the founder of Suan Kung Fu is really amazing, and he was able to develop such a technique that squeezes people. After enjoying it, Lu Chen also began to shift his energy to work. These days, Lu Chen spent most of his time in the Imperial Study Room handling government affairs. Lu Chen found that he had never enjoyed handling government affairs so much. Even though her wives and concubines were no match for him after learning Suan Kung Fu, there were so many wives and concubines that they couldn't stand him. At this moment, Lu Chen smiled bitterly when he thought about the ridiculous things he had done in the past half month. At this moment, the voice of a female guard sounded outside. "Your Majesty, Commander Liang wants to see you." Chapter 595 Emperor Xia fell out with other heavenly beings? After hearing the voice of the female guard at the door, Lu Chen immediately said, "Come in." The next moment, Liang Zong entered the imperial study. "See your Majesty, long live your Majesty." Lu Chen said calmly, "Excuse me, what's going on in Black Dragon City?" Liang Zong's recent focus has been on monitoring the movements of the Linghu sect. Now that he is here, it means that there is something going on with those in the Linghu sect. Liang Zong immediately handed the information in his hand to Lu Chen, and then said, Linghu sect sent some people to Yancheng and inquired about the location of the Great Xia people. They seem to be planning to visit those heavenly beings and win over them. Hearing this, Lu Chen laughed. Want to win over his people? How ridiculous! Lu Chen then opened the envelope sent by Liang Zong, took out the information inside and glanced at it. Liang Zong asked at this time, Your Majesty, should we get rid of those people directly? Lu Chen said, The people here are all masters from the Hedao stage. I'm afraid you Jin Yiwei are not their opponents. Hearing this, Liang Zong felt a little ashamed. Although Liang Zong was now a Grand Master, there was still a big difference between a Grand Master and a pseudo-celestial being. Moreover, there are not many great masters in Jin Yiwei now, and most of them are not even Grand Masters. If Jin Yiwei is asked to deal with those disciples of Linghu sect, they naturally do not have the strength. Lu Chen thought for a moment, and then said, I thought of an interesting thing. You try to send people to contact the disciples of the Linghu sect, just say that you are the disciples of a certain heavenly being, and then that heavenly being is very interested in their Linghu sect. Hearing Lu Chen's words, Liang Zong instantly understood what Lu Chen meant. Lu Chen was planning to attract all the disciples of the Linghu sect and then catch them all in one fell swoop. Liang Zong then raised his hands and saluted and said, I understand, I will do it now. Lu Chen said, Don't be too anxious. You can take your time. If you are too anxious, it may arouse their suspicion. If Liang Zong and the others were too eager, the disciples of the Linghu sect would definitely notice. This kind of thing still requires a certain amount of hard work. Liang Zong immediately said, Your Majesty, please rest assured that my subordinates will definitely handle this matter. Lu Chen thought for a while and continued, In this case, you ask Jin Yiwei to spread the news, saying that I have recently fallen out with Dean Mu, and Dean Mu has the idea of leaving Yancheng and retreating to the mountains. Okay, go and do your work. Since those in the Linghu sect want to win over the heavenly beings in this world, they should take the initiative to create opportunities for them. As soon as they hear that the Emperor and the heavenly beings have fallen out, they will definitely send someone to contact Mu Hongguang immediately. Liang Zong immediately understood what Lu Chen meant, I'll do it now. My subordinates resign. Liang Zong immediately left the imperial study and quickly carried out Lu Chen's order. In the afternoon, news of a falling out between His Majesty the Emperor and Mu Hongguang spread in the streets. Yancheng, the old city. Inside a restaurant, there were some men wearing strange clothes. It could be seen from their clothes that they were obviously not from Yancheng. Moreover, their accents were not like those from Yancheng. These people were very courageous. They drank and chatted in the restaurant without seeming to care whether anyone discovered their identities. At this time, some people were discussing something at the wine table next to these people. Hey, have you heard that Our Majesty had a falling out with the heavenly man from Taishu Academy? Real or false? What kind of conflict can they have? Who knows, maybe it's because of what His Majesty promised him back then, and then Taishu Temple surrendered to His Majesty. Now that the world has been unified, maybe it's because His Majesty didn't fulfill his original promise. I don't believe that Your Majesty can't be such a person. In my opinion, the Dean of Taishu Academy was too ambitious and wanted too many things. His Majesty could not satisfy him, so he had a falling out. That must be the case. What can we do? If this heavenly being and His Majesty fall out, wouldn't another war break out? He's just a celestial being. There's nothing to worry about. Our Majesty's strength now far exceeds that of a celestial being. After hearing the words coming from the next table, the disciples of Linghu sect were stunned for a moment. Meng Tian immediately motioned a disciple over with his eyes. The disciple immediately ran to sit on a seat at the table, and then said with a smile, How do you know that His Majesty and the gods of Taishu Academy had a falling out? Could it be that you heard the rumor somewhere? Hearing this, the person who just spoke about it couldn't help it, and immediately said loudly, "How can it be a rumor? Your Majesty has already asked the Dean of Taisha College to resign. The afternoon newspapers are talking about this. It's true." Seeing that this man was so excited, the disciple of the Linghu sect just smiled faintly, and then said, "Okay, even if this is true, how do you know that our Majesty is stronger than the gods?" The man said, "Isn't this an obvious thing? If our Majesty hadn't personally conquered it, how could we have defeated dynasties with formations like Dayu and Dakian? And if our Majesty was not strong enough, how could those heavenly beings have surrendered? Our Majesty. So our Majesty's strength must be far greater than those heavenly beings. Only in this way can our Majesty be able to suppress those heavenly beings." The disciple of Linghu sect smiled lightly, "What you said makes some sense." Having said this, the disciple of the Linghu sect did not waste time to continue talking nonsense with those people. He turned around and found the table where the disciples of the Linghu sect were sitting. At this time, a disciple of the Linghu sect looked at Meng Tian and said, "Senior brother Meng, what do you think? Should we win over the heavenly being who fell out with Emperor Xia next?" The corner of Meng Tian's mouth raised slightly, and then he said with a smile, "God really gave us a chance. We just arrived in Yancheng, and Emperor Xia had a falling out with one of the heavenly beings. If we can win over this heavenly being, maybe the few of us can directly destroy the entire Great Xia." At this time, another disciple of the Linghu sect said, "Senior brother Meng, I always feel that there is some truth in what those mortals said. This Emperor Xia must not be simple, otherwise he would not be able to control so many heavenly beings." Meng Tian said with a nonchalant expression, "No matter how powerful he is, what can he do? The spiritual energy in this world is thin. Even if he is at the 10th level of heaven and human, he can only exert the strength of 2 or 3 levels of heaven and human at most. If we can win over the heavenly beings around him and then cooperate with our Linghu sect's formation, it will be easy to kill him." After hearing what Meng Tian said, all the disciples of the Linghu sect nodded, feeling that what he said made sense. For a moment, they all became excited. They didn't expect that they were so lucky. Just when they arrived in Yancheng, they encountered such a thing as Emperor Xia and Tianren falling out. If we could get rid of Emperor Xia and then support another puppet emperor, wouldn't the whole of Great Xia fall into the hands of their Linghu sect? End of chapter. Chapter 596. Wouldn't it be better to let Emperor Xia be your puppet emperor? After learning that Lu Chen and Mu Hong had fallen out, the disciples of Linghu sect tried their best to find Mu Hongguang and try to win over Mu Hongguang. However, Mu Hongguang seemed to have disappeared and never appeared. Meng Tian and the others had lost their patience. After some time, Meng Tian finally heard about Mu Hongguang's location. Since Mu Hongguang was kicked out of Taishu Academy by Emperor Xia, he went to a Taoist temple near Yancheng for meditation. After learning the specific location of Mu Hongguang, Meng Tian immediately led people to the Taoist temple. The Taoist temple where Mu Hongguang is located on the top of a hill. There are no people around and it is extremely quiet. When Meng Tian and others reached the top of the mountain, they could only hear the sound of the leaves rustling in the wind. For some reason, Meng Tian always felt that something was wrong with this Taoist temple, but he didn't think much about it and immediately led people directly into the Taoist temple. It was extremely quiet outside the Taoist temple, but there were still many Taoist priests inside. After seeing someone coming, a Taoist priest immediately came to Meng Tian and others. "I wonder why you fellow Taoists are here." Meng Tian said directly, "I'm here to see Mu Hongguang. I heard that he lives in this Taoist temple." Although Meng Tian is a monk in the Hedao stage and his level is not as high as Mu Hongguang, to him, Mu Hongguang is just a native of the lower world, so he has no respect for Mu Hongguang at all. Just call it Mu Hongguang's name. After hearing what Meng Tian said, the Taoist priest who greeted him immediately said, "Everyone, please follow me." After the Taoist priest finished speaking, he took Meng Tian and others to the backyard of the Taoist temple. At this time, an old man with white hair was sitting under the old tree in the backyard of the Taoist temple. Seeing this old man, Meng Tian immediately cast a look of disdain. To become a celestial being only after a long period of time is a sign of uselessness in Meng Tian's opinion. If it weren't for the Linghu sect's big plan, he would come here to win over a grey-haired heavenly being. In the Linghu sect, the heavenly beings would grab a lot of them. At this time, Mu Hongguang, who was sitting on the stone bench, glanced at the people in the yard, and then said, "Everyone, I don't know why you are looking for me." Meng Tianzi came to the stone table where Mu Hongguang was sitting and sat down. Then he looked at Mu Hongguang and said, "Mu Hongguang, do you want to break through to the realm of creation in your lifetime?" Speaking of this, Meng Tian suddenly thought of something, so he immediately said, "Oh, by the way, I almost forgot, you people in Tianchen continent don't know about the realm of creation, you only know about heavenly beings." At this point, Meng Tian continued to explain, the realm of creation is an existence above heaven and man. As long as you break through to the realm of creation, adding another 1,000 years to your lifespan is not a big problem. Hearing this, Mu Hongguang smiled and said, "Are you guys kidding me?" Seeing what Mu Hongguang said, Meng Tian thought that Mu Hongguang didn't believe what he said, and then said impatiently, "So, I hate dealing with people from the lower world. I don't understand anything they say." Meng Tian continued, "Let me tell you directly, we are not from this world, we come from the world of mist. In the world of mist, heavenly beings are not the strongest, there are still existences above heavenly beings. As long as you are willing to stand by our side, when the restrictions in the mist world disappear, we can help you become a strong person in the creation realm. You only have one chance, it's up to you how you choose." Mu Hongguang frowned immediately, pretending not to understand, and said, "Misty world? What is that place?" Meng Tian continued to explain impatiently, "In the far west of your continent, is there a place shrouded in fog? That place is the world of fog. We are cultivators in the mist world. We come from the Linghu sect. The Linghu sect is one of the top superpowers in the mist world. In our Linghu sect, heavenly beings can be seen everywhere. Join our Linghu sect, and you will get countless benefits in the future." Cultivation resources. Mu Hongguang continued to ask, "What conditions do you need for me to join you? Since you are so powerful, how can you think so highly of me, a celestial being?" Meng Tian said, "You should be cautious. You only need to stand on our side and get rid of the Emperor of Daxia. As for why I want to win over you, it is mainly because you still have some potential. Being able to cultivate to the realm of heavenly beings in a world with such thin spiritual energy is enough to prove your talent. I have said this, make your choice. If you join the Linghu sect, I have a good thing to give you. I believe you have never seen this thing in your life." Hearing this, Lu Chen, who was disguised as Mu Hongguang, became interested. "Oh, what is it?" Meng Tian said, "As long as you agree to join the Linghu sect now, I will give it to you immediately." Lu Chen said without hesitation, "Okay, I agree." After Lu Chen finished speaking, Meng Tian took out a stone that emitted blue light from his clothes. As soon as the blue stone was taken out, Lu Chen felt abundant spiritual energy. Lu Chen instantly understood what it was. Without Meng Tian explaining it to him, he knew that this stone was the spiritual stone, the currency of the world of cultivation. Meng Tian then handed the spirit stone to Lu Chen, and then continued, "This is the spirit stone, the currency of the world of cultivation. The spirit stone can not only be used for trading, but also for absorption. The spiritual energy in this lower world of yours is very thin. This low-grade spiritual stone is enough for you to receive energy for a year." After Lu Chen took the spirit stone, he immediately absorbed the spiritual energy inside the spirit stone. His absorption speed was very fast. In just a moment, the entire spirit stone was absorbed by Lu Chen. Seeing this scene, Meng Tian was stunned for a moment. He did not expect that the heavenly being who came into contact with the spirit stone for the first time could actually absorb the entire spirit stone in such a short period of time. Lu Chen looked at Meng Tian at this time and asked, "Do you still have spirit stones on you?" Hearing this question, Meng Tian sneered, and then said, "One spirit stone is enough, how many more spirit stones do you want? When the restrictions in the mist world disappear and the spirit fox sect comes to this world, then you can go take on the sect mission and earn as many spiritual stones as you want." Lu Chen did not continue to dwell on this issue. He would kill these guys later and find out if they still had spirit stones. His most important task now was to extract words from these people. Lu Chen then asked, "Why do you want to get rid of Emperor Xia? Wouldn't it be better to let Emperor Xia be your puppet emperor?" Hearing Lu Chen's words, Meng Tian was stunned for a moment, as if the door to a new world had suddenly opened. "That's right, wouldn't it be great if they negotiated directly with Emperor Xia and asked Emperor Xia to surrender to Linghe clan? Doesn't this mean that Linghe clan directly controls Daxia and Daxia becomes a tributary of Linghe clan?" But Meng Tian soon thought of a question. Meng Tian then said, "Emperor Xia is relatively powerful in this world, and he may not be willing to be the puppet of the Linghe sect." End of chapter. Subscribe to Chinese Novel Audio Wave. Chapter 597 I am the Emperor of Daxia you want to get rid of. After hearing what Lu Chen said, Meng Tian thought about it. If he could really persuade Emperor Xia to join the Linghe sect, then all problems would be solved. But the key is that Emperor Xia unified the entire Tianchen continent and became a unified emperor. How could he be willing to ask him to join the Linghe sect and become its puppet? And there is another problem. Even if Emperor Xia really takes refuge in the Linghe sect, he may not really take refuge in the Linghe sect. Emperor Xia probably pretended to surrender, and then secretly colluded with other forces in the mist world to deal with the Linghe sect. So the best way is actually to get rid of Emperor Xia, and then choose a puppet emperor themselves. Even if the puppet emperor supported by Linghe sect wants to collude with other forces in the mist world, it will not be as easy as Emperor Xia. After hearing Meng Tian's words, Lu Chen thought to himself that it seemed that the cultivators in the misty world were not so easy to fool. Lu Chen immediately said, "Maybe you can give it a try." Meng Tian looked at Lu Chen at this time, and then said, "I am a little curious. It is rumored that you and Emperor Xia have fallen out. Why are you still speaking for Emperor Xia now?" Lu Chen said calmly, "I have indeed fallen out with Emperor Xia, but it has not reached the point of life and death. Moreover, once Emperor Xia dies, the world will probably fall apart again." Hearing this, Meng Tian chuckled, "With Linghe sect here, even without Emperor Xia, we can maintain the unity of this world. You don't have to worry about this." Lu Chen said, "Since I have joined the Linghe sect, I have a few questions about the Linghe sect. I wonder if you can help me answer my questions." Meng Tian frowned and asked impatiently, "What's the problem?" Lu Chen said, "I would like to know where the Linghe sect's strength ranks in the foggy world." Hearing this question, Meng Tian did not answer immediately, but glanced at Lu Chen. After a moment, Meng Tian said, "It seems that you are not very determined to join the Linghe sect." Lu Chen said calmly, "Since I have joined the Linghe sect, I must know the strength of the force I joined." Meng Tian replied, "Don't worry about this. The Linghe sect can also be ranked among the top 3 in the mist world. Except for the Mystic Immortal sect and the 10,000 Immortals sect, no other force dares to provoke the Linghe sect." Speaking of this, Meng Tian continued to add, "Although the Mystic Immortal sect and the 10,000 Immortals sect are both stronger than the Linghe sect, this is only superficial. We have more heavenly beings than these two sects. If we really take action, these two sects may not be our Linghe sect's opponents." Hearing this, Lu Chen felt relieved. It turns out that Linghe sect is not as good as his own 10,000 Immortals sect, so that's okay. Then Lu Chen continued to ask, are there any strong people in the yin and yang realm in Linghu sect? Meng Tian replied without thinking, of course there is. If there are no strong men in the yin and yang realm, how can we be the opponents of the mystic immortal sect and the 10,000 immortals sect? Etc. At this moment, Meng Tian suddenly came to his senses. He immediately looked at Lu Chen in front of him warily, and then asked, do you know about the yin and yang realm? The old man didn't even know about the creation realm just now, but he told him himself. He didn't tell the old man just now that there is the yin-yang realm above the creation realm, so why did the word yin-yang realm come out of this old man's mouth? After Meng Tian finished speaking, the other Linghu sect disciples immediately became vigilant, looking at Lu Chen one by one, as if they were ready to take action at any time. Lu Chen said calmly, although I have never left this world, I still know some things about the world of cultivation. Meng Tian said, impossible. You must have been in contact with other forces in the misty world. Old man, tell me honestly, what is the name of the force you came into contact with? Meng Tian thought to himself, since the Linghu sect can come to this world through the space cracks, there is no reason why other sects or forces cannot come to this world through the space cracks in advance. Perhaps other forces in the mist world have come to this world through the space rift, and may even be ahead of them. This is not good news for them. Seeing that Meng Tian and others were so cautious, Lu Chen felt that there was no need to continue talking. The Linghu sect was nothing in Lu Chen's eyes, not even as good as the 10,000 immortals sect, so there was nothing to be afraid of. Now Lu Chen is most worried about the mystic immortal sect. The strength of the 10,000 immortals sect and mystic immortal sect should be about the same. When the time comes to take action, I don't know which sect has a greater chance of winning. Lu Chen got up from the stone bench at this time. Seeing Lu Chen standing up, Meng Tian and others immediately took a few steps back, assuming a posture of attacking. At this time, Lu Chen used the yin-yang mirror to change his appearance. In an instant, he returned to his original appearance. Seeing that the person talking to them was a young man who also used the disguise technique, Meng Tian and others immediately understood that they had been deceived. The person in front of them was not Mu Hongguang at all. Meng Tian frowned and said, who are you? Why are you pretending to be Mu Hongguang? Lu Chen smiled and said, introduce yourself, I am the Emperor of Great Xia you want to get rid of. Upon hearing this, Meng Tian and others clenched the swords in their hands. What? Emperor of Daxia? This person is actually the Emperor of Daxia. The Emperor of Daxia even knew the yin and yang realm, he was indeed no ordinary person. Meng Tian suddenly had a bad premonition. He suspected that Emperor Xia was actually a puppet emperor supported by other forces. Otherwise, how could an emperor as powerful as Emperor Xia appear in an inferior world? Not only did he unify the entire continent, but he even made all the gods and humans submit to him. Meng Tian then said, I really didn't expect that there would be forces that penetrated this world earlier than us. Which sect are you from? Lu Chen did not continue to pretend, and answered directly, 10,000 Immortals sect. Meng Tian said, sure enough. He said how could people in this world know that there is a yin-yang realm above the creation realm, but he didn't expect that this guy was actually from the 10,000 Immortals sect. Since he is a member of the 10,000 Immortals sect, there is nothing to say. Only by killing this guy can their Linghu sect be able to control the entire Daxia. Thinking of this, Meng Tian laughed and said, I really didn't expect that I caught a big fish. As long as they can get rid of Emperor Xia, a disciple of the 10,000 Immortals sect, and snatched a Xia away from the 10,000 Immortals sect, they will definitely be rewarded when they return to Linghu sect. Although the 10,000 Immortals sect is stronger than the Linghu sect, the Linghu sect is not afraid of the 10,000 Immortals sect. They have always been competitors. Lu Chen said calmly at this time, oh? Are you so confident? Meng Tian sneered and said, you must have been in this world for a long time. The spiritual energy in this world is thin. Even if you are a heavenly being now, you still cannot exert the strength of a heavenly being." After the words fell, Meng Tian shouted, "Array!" End of chapter. Chapter 598. I really thought that having an earth-level spiritual weapon in my hand would rule the W. As Meng Tian's voice fell, the Linghu sect disciples behind Meng Tian immediately dispersed and stood up. The next moment, a blue formation pattern appeared on the soles of their feet. Immediately afterwards, Meng Tian took out some spiritual stones from his pocket and threw them directly at the key points of the formation. For a moment, the formation emitted an even stronger blue light. The reason why they are confident is because they have enough spiritual stones with them, and they have sufficient spiritual power. Coupled with the blessing of the formation, how can a heavenly being who does not even have much spiritual power be their opponent? Lu Chen did not take action immediately. He wanted to see what the Linghu sect's formation was like. Moments later, a vision of a giant blue fox appeared in the sky. The fox illusion gives people a huge sense of oppression, making it difficult to even breathe. Seeing that Lu Chen was stunned by the illusion of the fox, Meng Tian laughed and said, "Emperor Xia, you are really stupid. Not only did you come to us, you even revealed your identity as a disciple of the 10,000 Immortals sect. If Lu Chen hadn't taken the initiative to expose his identity and continued to pretend to be Mu Hongguang, they wouldn't have been able to take action against him. Even if Emperor Xia changed back to his original appearance and admitted that he was Emperor Xia, Meng Tian might still win over him." As a result, Emperor Xia actually directly said that he was a disciple of the 10,000 Immortals sect. Since Emperor Xia was a disciple of the 10,000 Immortals sect, there was no need to be embarrassed. The Linghu sect and the 10,000 Immortals sect were originally competitors. How could they give up Tianchen continent to their competitors, so this Emperor Xia must die. At this moment, in the eyes of Meng Tian and other Linghu sect disciples, Lu Chen was already a dead person. After hearing what they said, Lu Chen not only did not feel scared, but instead showed a smile. Immediately afterwards, Lu Chen took out the god-killing spear. The moment they saw the god-killing spear, Meng Tian and other Linghu sect disciples were all stunned on the spot. They don't know what kind of spiritual weapon the god-killing spear is, but they can judge the quality of the god-killing spear from its spiritual pressure. The head of their spirit fox sect also has a spiritual weapon that can emit the same spiritual pressure, and that spiritual weapon is an earth-level spiritual weapon. At this time, a disciple lost his voice and said, Earth-level spiritual weapon. It is an earth-level spiritual weapon. How can this be? How could the 10,000 Immortals sect give an earth-level spiritual weapon to a disciple for use? For a moment, everyone in Linghu sect panicked, and even the formation in the sky began to become a little unstable. They are very aware of the horror of earth-level spiritual weapons. It is rumored that the head of their Spirit Fox sect is able to gain a foothold in the misty world because of an earth-level spiritual weapon. It stands to reason that earth-level spiritual weapons are usually treasures kept at the bottom of a sect's box. How could they be handed over to a disciple for use? The disciples of the Linghu sect were very puzzled. Just when the disciples of the Linghu sect were lost in thought, Meng Tian had a look of greed in his eyes. That is an earth-level spiritual weapon. As long as he obtains the earth-level spiritual weapon and breaks through to the realm of heaven and man, he may have the ability to fight against the realm of creation. As long as he gets this spiritual weapon, he has a trump card to save his life. As for whether the disciples of the Linghu sect behind him will tell the leader about his possession of the earth-level spiritual weapon, there is no need to consider this. After they snatch the earth-level spiritual weapon from Emperor Xia's hand later, he will immediately use this earth-level spiritual weapon to deal with these guys. As long as he lives alone, no one will know what happened here, and no one will know that he obtained the earth-level spiritual weapon. After Meng Tian came to his senses, he immediately said loudly, "Don't be afraid, everyone, even if he has an earth-level spiritual weapon, he will not be able to stimulate the power of the earth-level spiritual weapon." Hearing Meng Tian's words, the disciples of Linghu sect came back to their senses instantly. Yes, Emperor Xia couldn't absorb enough spiritual energy in this world. How could he fully activate the power of Earth-level spiritual weapons? Meng Tian's words immediately restored the confidence of the disciples of Linghu sect. The next moment, all the disciples of the Spirit Fox sect worked together to control the illusion of the Spirit Fox in the sky and began to attack Lu Chen. The Spirit Fox illusion opened its mouth and spit out blue flames directly at Lu Chen. Lu Chen did not dodge. He raised the God-killing spear and poured spiritual power into the God-killing spear. Seeing that the flames ejected by the Spirit Fox illusion were about to touch Lu Chen's body, Lu Chen immediately pulled the trigger. The next moment, a blue beam of light spurted out from the God-killing gun and directly hit the flames ejected by the Spirit Fox illusion. Above the blue flame. After the blue light beam collided with the blue flame, an explosion occurred instantly. Smoke and dust suddenly flew everywhere, and everything around was confused. After a while, the formation of the Spirit Fox sect was still there, and the illusion of the Spirit Fox in the sky did not disappear. Meng Tian sneered and said, "It's really ridiculous to think that having an Earth-level spiritual weapon in your hand means you are invincible." Having said this, Meng Tian immediately released his spiritual power, trying to find out the location of the God-killing spear. However, at this moment, another beam of light shot from a distance, but this time the beam of light was aimed at the phantom of the Spirit Fox. Meng Tian and others, and this time the light beam turned golden. After sensing the danger, Meng Tian shouted, "No!" Meng Tian quickly controlled their formation, trying to let the Spirit Fox illusion stop the golden beam of light, but the speed of the golden beam of light was too fast, and Meng Tian and the others were still a step too late. The next moment, the golden beam shot through Meng Tian's body and spread instantly. Then the other disciples of the Linghu sect who came into contact with the golden beam also dissipated. After the dust settled, Lu Chen came to the place where Meng Tian disappeared and took a look at the spiritual stones on the ground. The attack of the God-killing spear destroyed Meng Tian's body and clothes, but only the spiritual stones remained. There seemed to be about 20 spiritual stones on the ground at the moment. Although they are all low-grade spiritual stones, they are still of great use to Lu Chen. After all, the spiritual energy in this world has not yet recovered. Next, he will need to use these spiritual stones to deal with the intruders from the misty world. Lu Chen raised his hand and waved, and all the spirit stones flew into his hand. Looking at the spirit stones in his hand, Lu Chen smiled slightly. He did not expect that he would gain such a big harvest this time. These people are probably just an advance team sent by Linghu sect to find out information about Daxia. Most of the Linghu sect disciples are still in Black Dragon City, and those people should have a lot of spirit stones on their bodies. Thinking of this, Lu Chen had the idea of heading to Black Dragon City immediately. After simply tidying up, Lu Chen returned to Yancheng. As soon as they arrived at the gate of Yancheng and before reaching the palace, a female guard hurriedly came to Lu Chen and said, "Your Majesty, the Reverend Suanya Palace is here." After Yun Xianxian helped Lu Chen solve the rebellion of the major forces last time, she went directly back to Suanya Palace. I'm afraid she herself didn't expect that she would come back to Yancheng so soon. Upon hearing the news that Yung Xiangxian came to Yancheng, Lu Chen immediately guessed that Yung Xiangxian must have noticed the situation in the misty world, so he was anxious to find him. Lu Chen didn't hesitate at all, and immediately transformed and returned directly to the palace. End of chapter. Chapter 599. Come to the teacher's room tonight. In the fragrant palace, 3 women were sitting on the floor. Yun Xianxian, who was dressed in white and was as beautiful as snow, had her eyes closed and was meditating. At this time, other people's spiritual energy fluctuations suddenly appeared in the palace, and a figure suddenly appeared next to the 3 women. Seeing that Lu Chen was back, Lin Wanyun immediately stood up and said, "I am here to see your Majesty." Lu Chen smiled and said, "Wanyun, you are being polite to me again." Hearing this, a blush appeared on the beautiful woman's face. Lu Chen's eyes shifted to Yongxiangxian, who was meditating beside her. Yongxiangxian was still as charming as ever. She had a beautiful face, fair skin, and an icy cold air exuding from her body, which made people want to conquer her thoughts. At this time, Yun Xianxian opened his eyes. As soon as he opened his eyes, he found Lu Chen staring straight at him. Yun Xianxian snorted coldly in her heart. This traitor started to take advantage of her body again. Lu Chen asked with a smile at this time, "Master, are you coming down the mountain this time for matters in the misty world?" Yun Xianxian replied calmly, "I have noticed that there are spatial cracks in the misty world. It is very likely that cultivators from the misty world have come to this world." Lu Chen immediately said, "So, Master is worried about the safety of his disciples, so he came to Yancheng to protect his disciples." Yun Xianxian said indifferently, "You are overthinking. I just want to see if there are cultivators from the mist world who will directly cause trouble for you. When the time comes, I will capture a few and ask them some questions." Yun Xianxian plans to go to the mist world immediately after the restrictions in the mist world disappear, so she needs to find out the current situation in the mist world first. As the current only emperor and supreme ruler of Tianchen continent, Lu Chen, a cultivator from the misty world, came to this world. The first thing he did was definitely come to find Lu Chen. Either let Lu Chen join the forces in the misty world, or kill Lu Chen and then support another emperor to ascend the throne. Yun Xianxian is too familiar with the methods of those sect forces. So she planned to wait for those sect forces to come to her door. Hearing Yun Xiangxian's words, Lu Chen said, "The master should have come earlier. I just dealt with many cultivators from the misty world at a Taoist temple outside Yancheng." Yun Xianxian was stunned for a moment. She did not expect that people from the mist world would come into contact with Lu Chen so quickly. After Yun Xianxian came back to her senses, she asked, "Have you found out any information?" Lu Chen replied, "The one currently invading our world is a force called the Linghu sect. Their people say that the Linghu sect's strength can rank third in the foggy world." Yun Xianxian continued to ask, "What else?" Lu Chen said, "No more, those people are just disciples of Linghu sect and don't have any important information." "Correct." Having said this, Lu Chen took out 2 spiritual stones and said, "Master, these are the spiritual stones I collected from them. You can take them and absorb them." Seeing the spirit stone in Lu Chen's hand, Yun Xiangxian's heart beat suddenly. She hadn't seen the spirit stone for a long time since she fell into this world, and she hadn't absorbed enough spiritual energy for a long time. Has always been in a state of lacking spiritual power. Immediately Yongxian waved her hand, and the 2 spiritual stones in Lu Chen's hand flew into Yongxiangxian's hands. However, she did not absorb the spiritual power in the spirit stones immediately. Instead, she stared into Lu Chen's eyes and asked, "Just 2 spiritual stones?" Yun Xianxian did not think that those cultivators from the mist world came to this world with only 2 spiritual stones. There must be more spiritual stones in this trader. Lu Chen said with a smile, "Just 2 pieces. There were a few more pieces, but they have been absorbed, so there are only 2 pieces left." Yun Xianxian didn't believe Lu Chen's answer, but Yun Xianxian didn't continue to ask. This trader also knew that it would be good to honor her with 2 spiritual stones, and there was no need for her to continue pursuing him. Immortal Yongxian then absorbed the spiritual power from the 2 spiritual stones in her hands into her body. Although they were only 2 low-level spiritual stones, the spiritual power contained in the spiritual stones had been more than what she had been able to absorb for a long time. Lu Chen thought of something at this time, so he continued, "By the way, Master, the disciples of Linghu sect have occupied Black Dragon City and are planning to support an emperor again in Black Dragon City. Although the people they came here are all below the heavenly realm, I believe there must be others among them who have brought spiritual stones. After all, the spiritual energy in this world is not abundant, and they need to use spiritual stones to replenish the spiritual energy in their bodies. Force. Hearing Lu Chen's words, Yun Xianxian saw his little thoughts at a glance. Yun Xianxian said expressionlessly, "Do you want me to help you get rid of all the intruders in the foggy world?" Lu Chen said with a smile, "Isn't this a win-win situation? Master, you can get the Spirit Stone, and the world can develop stably for the time being." Yun Xianxian asked at this time, "Do you really think you can fight against those sects in the misty world?" Yun Xianxian wanted to know whether the forces behind Lu Chen would take action when Lu Chen was in danger. Although those cultivating families would send their outstanding disciples to lower worlds for training, in order to ensure their safety, they must have arranged a lot of backups. As long as the children of their clan are harmed and their lives are in danger, those cultivating families will definitely take action. Now Yun Xianxian, like Lu Qingqiu and others, has determined that Lu Chen is the young master of a certain immortal cultivating family. Hearing Yun Xianxian's question, Lu Chen said without hesitation, "Master, don't worry, the day the ban on the mist world disappears is when it becomes my land of Great Xia." Seeing that Lu Chen was so confident, Yun Xianxian said, "You are quite confident. It seems that the forces behind you are preparing to take action." Lu Chen just smiled and did not explain anything. He also knew that Yungxian and the others had misunderstood him and thought that he was the son of a certain cultivating family. Just let them misunderstand. It would not have much impact on him. Yun Xianxian continued, "Okay, in a few days, I will personally go to Black Dragon City to deal with the intruders from the Mist World for you. But I have promised in advance that if a powerful person above heaven and human appears, I will not take action." Lu Chen said, "Master, please rest assured that the restriction has not disappeared now. People from the Linghu sect can only send some disciples at or below the Hedao stage to invade our world. I believe that the disciples at the Hedao stage are very important to master. Your Majesty, it shouldn't be difficult." Lu Chen originally wanted to go to Black Dragon City in person, and he was also more interested in those spiritual stones, but he remembered his main mission, which was to create a child. It won't be long before the restrictions in the mist world disappear, so he needs to prepare some things. Although Wu Yunwan and the 3 wives and concubines still have unborn children in their bellies, no one can say what the rewards of the system will be like. So it's better to have more lives. At this time, Yun Xianxian took a look at Lu Chen. She didn't know why, but Lu Chen was becoming more and more handsome and noble in her eyes. It was the first time that she felt that a man was so attractive to her. Yun Xianxian quickly stopped her thoughts, and then said coldly, "Come to my teacher's room tonight. I want to recover from my injuries." End of chapter. Chapter 600. These 2 rebels. Lu Chen always responded to Yun Xianxian's requests. Lu Chen said with a smile, "Okay, the disciple will definitely come." After hearing Lu Chen's answer, Yun Xianxian closed her beautiful eyes and said, "Okay, go and do your business." Lu Chen said, "The disciple will leave first." After he finished speaking, Lu Chen's eyes fell on Chen Wanrong. Chen Wanrong was wearing a purple yun shang that hugged her body closely. Her slender waist and hips formed a sharp contrast. "Rong, come with me. I have something to ask you." As soon as Lu Chen finished speaking, Yun Xianxian frowned. How could she not know what Lu Chen wanted to do? In broad daylight, Chen Wanrong had just come from Suanyu Palace, and this traitor actually wanted to do something good. Although she felt inexplicably unhappy, Yun Xianxian couldn't say much. After all, Chen Wanrong had married Lu Chen and was Lu Chen's wife and concubine. Although she was their master, it was impossible for such a thing to happen. Intervene. Chen Wanrong did not get up immediately. She glanced at Yun Xianxian who was meditating beside her. Yun Xianxian said indifferently, "Go." Chen Wanrong then stood up and walked slowly to Lu Chen. As soon as he arrived in front of Lu Chen couldn't wait to put Chen Wanrong into his arms. Then he transformed and left the room and came to the next door. room. As soon as he placed the cold fairy Chen Wanrong on the soft couch, Lu Chen couldn't wait to kiss Chen Wanrong's red lips. Chen Wanrong didn't struggle. She had just expected that Lu Chen would do such a thing. Now she had no resistance to Lu Chen. Lu Chen could do whatever he wanted. After kissing for a while, their lips slowly parted. At this time, Chen Wanrong's pretty face was slightly red, her beautiful eyes were affectionate, and her consciousness was a little blurred. Lu Chen said with a smile at this time, "Wrong, I have a technique here that is particularly suitable for your practice. Do you want to practice it?" Hearing Lu Chen's words, Chen Wanrong was stunned for a moment. She originally thought that Lu Chen brought her here to do something happy, but she didn't expect that Lu Chen just wanted to teach her the skills. Chen Wanrong's face turned rosy when she thought that she had thought wrongly. Ever since she became Lu Chen's woman, she had formed a habit of thinking of that kind of thing every time she came into contact with Lu Chen. She felt like she had become bad along with Lu Chen. After Chen Wanrong came to her senses, she asked, "What kind of technique?" Lu Chen smiled and said, "It's a heaven-level skill called Suan skill." Hearing Lu Chen's answer, Chen Wanrong was stunned for a moment. "Heaven-level skills?" Lu Chen continued, "I'll teach it to you first. After you see the content of the technique, you can decide whether to practice it or not." At this point, Lu Chen directly taught Suan Gong to Chen Wanrong. As a ball of blue light entered Chen Wanrong's forehead, the content of Suan Gong was also accepted by Chen Wanrong. When Chen Wanrong saw the content of Suan Gong, her face turned red. She seemed to understand why Lu Chen wanted her to practice Suan Gong. Suan Gong seems to be related to that kind of thing. It turns out that she didn't think much about it just now. This bad guy still wants to have fun with her. At this time, Lu Chen leaned against Chen Wanrong's ear and asked, "Wrong, do you want to practice this technique?" How could Chen Wanrong not hear what Lu Chen meant? She whispered, "Well, practice." Seeing that Chen Wanrong had said this, Lu Chen stopped being polite and kissed Chen Wanrong's mouth again. Soon, Yun Xian, who was meditating next door, heard Chen Wanrong's voice. Yun Xian frowned. Lu Chen, the traitor, was really hopeless. Although dual cultivation could also improve his strength, Lu Chen seemed to have spent all his energy on dual cultivation. She seemed to have never seen Lu Chen alone. Have practiced. Why couldn't Yun Xian see that Lu Chen was just enjoying himself in the name of cultivation, and he had never practiced seriously at all? But then again, this guy has the dual cultivation technique of Dragon and Phoenix Yin and Yang Kong, so there is really no need to practice hard. For some reason, Yun Xian suddenly felt that he had been practicing hard and it was just a joke. Yun Xian quickly adjusted his emotions and continued to meditate. However, as the noise from next door became louder and louder, Yun Xian completely lost his mind to practice. These two rebels. They must have done it on purpose. Especially Chen Wanrong, who usually looks saintly and elegant, like a fairy. How come she starts to cry and howl when she comes to Lu Chen, the rebellious disciple? At this time, Yun Xian suddenly opened her eyes, and waves of cold air were released from her body. Suddenly, the entire room she was in was frozen, and Lin Wanyun beside her was stunned for a moment. However, Lin Wanyun also understood why Yung Xiangxian was angry. Lu Chen and Chen Wanrong were not restrained at all in the next room. Yung Xiangxian had no intention of practicing, so it would be strange not to be angry. Hearing the sound coming from next door, Lin Wanyun's cheeks began to heat up slightly, and a blush appeared. At this time, Yung Xiangxian's eyes suddenly fell on Lin Wanyun's face. Seeing the shy look on the beautiful woman's face, Yung Xiangxian he sneered and said, "What, you want to go next door too?" Lin Wanyun said quickly, "Your Majesty, I have no such idea." Yun Xian said, "I think that's what you think. If you want to go there, you can go there now. It was naturally impossible for Lin Wanyun to go there at this time, and she did not leave. After a while, Yun Xianxian saw that there was still a lot of movement next door, and she suddenly had a thought. Could it be that this traitor deliberately used this method to stimulate her? Thinking of this, Yun Xianxian sneered. Does this traitor think he can succeed with this method? How ridiculous! Then Yun Xianxian closed her eyes again, and quickly blocked her ears with spiritual power. For a moment, all the sounds around her disappeared. Yun Xianxian continued to practice peacefully. It's strange. When she thought of her two traitors who were doing things next door, Yun Xianxian had no intention of cultivating at all. She didn't know what was going on. She was always uneasy recently and would always think of that inadvertently. Rebel. Yun Xianxian suspected that this was probably the influence of Dragon and Phoenix Yin and Yang Kung Fu. When he was practicing with Lu Chen before, he was a little out of control, and it became harder and harder to control himself every time. It is most likely the effect of Dragon and Phoenix Yin and Yang Kung Fu. She has heard in the past that if Taoist couples practice dual cultivation techniques together, the relationship between the two parties will become better and better, and they will become more and more inseparable from each other. Thinking of this, Yung Xianxian Liu frowned. Could it be that after being affected by the Dragon and Phoenix Yin Yang Kong, he had developed a liking for the traitor? Thinking of this, Yun Xianxian suddenly felt bad. How could she develop a crush on this lecherous man? This was not possible. He had to find a way to calm himself down and get rid of Lu Chen's influence. If she continues like this, she may have inner demons in her heart. For Yun Xianxian at this moment, Lu Chen was already a love disaster, and she had to survive this love disaster. End of chapter. Subscribe to Chinese Novel Audio Wave. Thank you.